Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto has dense chakra in Konoha. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by ThatBlackMan and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. Bound by Limitation. I want every civilian underground, any ninja high JLNIN or greater is with me, the voice bellowed with a mix of fear and order. A chorus of acknowledgement followed as shinobi scattered to carry out the orders of their former Hokage. Tsurutobi-sama, the fox is moving too ferociously. My barrier won't hold, a man yelled to his superior, voice filled with fear and desperation. The Hokage is on his way, we need only to stall it until he arrives, the elder man responded and turned his attention back to the rampaging fox. Flowing through hand seals, Hiruzen bit his thumb and slammed his palm onto the damp ground. Summoning jutsu. Monkey King Enma, the former Hokage, bellowed as a large plum of smoke covered a section of the battlefield. Once the smoke cleared, it revealed a towering, well-built monkey dressed in tiger print, a leaf headband tied around its forehead. Hiruzen, it spoke before turning to the rampaging fox. I thought Kushina-san had this beast under control. It turned to the third Hokage, who flashed a grimace. She did up until moments prior. The seal has weakened. It spoke, wishing more to confirm than question. She gave birth to twins. The boy came into the world without issue, but the girl Hiruzen trailed off. The girl decided to try and drag that beast out with her, the monkey spoke, narrowing its eyes at the fox. In a sense, yes. Then let us fight, its tone decisive. Hiruzen nodded, and with a puff of smoke, Enma turned into a large black staff. Extend, Enma. Hiruzen shouted as the staff obeyed his command, thinning out and extending in length. Hiruzen flung himself towards the fox, who seemingly noticed the man and swung a claw towards him. Hiruzen stopped his advance and swung his staff upwards, catching it between two of the beast's claws. Extend, Enma. Hiruzen commanded once more, and the staff shot through the beast's claw, nailing it in the snout. The fox reeled back as it stopped to assess the third Hokage. Hiruzen took advantage of the brief lapse in attack to make his own move. Retracting Enma, the elder man threw a pebble behind the beast's head before making 5 hand seals. Substitution jutsu, the man had disappeared and in his place was the pebble he threw earlier. The fox's eyes widened before it whipped its head behind itself, spotting the former Hokage. Higher style. Burning ash jutsu. The former Hokage called out before blowing out a cloud of gunpowder. The man stalled to light it as he let himself fall and slip behind the temporarily blind demon fox. Higher style. Burning ash jutsu. He yelled again as he repeatedly ran laps around the blind fox, repeating the jutsu in intervals. The fox attempted to raise a claw to swipe at the smoke, but found it couldn't. The beast's eyes widened as it seemingly knew what came next. Wisened up, have we? The former Hokage said tauntingly as Enma was back at his side, not as a staff but as his summon, holding a wire covered in a slick substance. Higher style. Fireball jutsu. The ball of flame stuck to the incendiary oil and traveled up the length of the wire, wrapping around the fox, while also exploding the several gunpowder clouds around its head. That's the power of the Hokage. A shinobi yelled out, and a chorus of similar sentiments followed. The fox stayed stagnant for a while before letting out a deafening roar and tearing apart the wire and settling its glare on Hiruzen. The fox snarled before opening its jaw and pointing it straight towards the former Hokage as a sickly blackish-purple chakra condensed in its mouth. Scatter. The man yelled to his subordinates as he cast a glance at Enma, who returned it understandingly. If they didn't pull this off, they would die. The summon transformed back into a staff and expanded to a size near that of the fox itself. The fox narrowed its red eyes and shot the condensed ball of chakra towards the Hokage and his makeshift wall. Hiruzen watched as the ball came closer and closer, anxiously awaiting the collision. But it never came. A yellow flash blinded the former Hokage, and once his vision cleared up, he realized that the massive ball of chakra was gone. And the fourth Hokage was here. Minato Hiruzen breathed the name out as his fears lessened slightly. Hiruzen. His voice was cold as he stared down the tailed beast. I have a plan. The elder man nodded and shifted his gaze to the enraged fox. Just tell me what you need from me, Hokage-sama. He spoke the man's title as a way to convey his willingness to fight for his village. With a nod, Minato turned towards the beast and threw a tri-pronged kunai at the fox demon, who made an attempt to swat it away, but before it could, the fourth Hokage appeared with it in his hand and tapped the beast on its claw. A large yellow flash blinded the battlefield, and once the light cleared, Minato had disappeared. Alongside the beast. Hiruzen stared at the place the Hokage once was before grimacing and narrowing his eyes. What are you planning, Minato? However, before the man could move to search for the beast and aid his successor in combat, the blonde man reappeared and wordlessly teleported his predecessor away with him. Clearing land of fire. You still haven't told me your plan, Minato. Hiruzen spoke, though it was more to himself than to the blonde man beside him. "We're going to seal the fox in Narumi." He said it bluntly as he turned away from the former Hokage and towards the demon fox. "But first, we have to slow it down." Hiruzen's mouth was agape as he looked at his successor, eyed wide as saucers. "You can't be serious." "I very much am." His cold voice contrasted harshly from the warm man Hiruzen knew him to be. "You surely can't hope to use that seal. It'd kill you." Hiruzen was worried. He knew this man wouldn't think twice about killing himself for the village he called home. "No." Hiruzen breathed a sigh of relief. "Then how do you intend to seal the fox?" His worry washed away slightly and was replaced by curiosity. "I came across a scroll among the ruins of Yuzu. Most of it was gone, but I managed to figure out what info it was containing. Turns out it's a sealing jutsu called Heavenly Restriction. Though surely it has a cost." Hiruzen added and studied the Hokage. The blonde lowered his head before turning to the fox, who was in the midst of gathering more chakra for its tailed beast bomb and throwing one of his tri-pronged kunai right towards the rapidly growing ball of chakra and teleported right in front of the beast. "Minato, dodge." The former Hokage shouted, but the blonde man stared the rapidly approaching bomb down and stuck his hands out. Time seemed to slow down as Hiruzen watched as the technique inched closer to his student before it finally made contact with his outstretched palms. And it vanished. Miles out, a loud crash rocked the land of fire as the bomb eviscerated a natural hot spring. "I knew his flying rage was powerful, but to teleport an attack from that monster. Incredible." Hiruzen praised the Hokage in his mind before a shout broke him out of his thoughts. "Follow up, Hiruzen." The Hokage had yelled at the elder man who only nodded before slamming his palms together. "Earth style." Stone monolith. A large slab of stone appeared in front of Hiruzen, who grabbed his staff and swung it as hard as he could, shattering the recently constructed structure and launching them towards the fox alongside a flurry of Kma shuriken. Said demon raised its paw to block the debris, but just as they made contact the former Hokage made a single hand seal that triggered each of the paper bombs discreetly attached to the rocks to explode, deafening the fox and propelling the shuriken deep within its paw. The former Hokage grinned as he made a mad dash to the tree line, encircling the fox before returning to Minato's side. 15 seconds. The Hokage spoke out and Hiruzen nodded. He'd give Minato that time and then some. Though the elder man spoke and Minato flashed away to presumably retrieve his daughter. The fox grew irate at the lack of carnage and swiped its undamaged paw at the older man, who jumped back in response. "Let me show you why I am revered as the god of shinobi." Fox, the man grinned as he tossed up Enma, who returned to his monkey form. The summon shared the god of shinobi's grin as he pulled hard on the wire wrapped around his hands. The tree surrounding the Kyuubi toppled atop the beast, who struggled to free itself with its one paw. "Fire style. Great dragon fire jutsu." Hiruzen yelled as he lit the trees ablaze. Without missing a beat, Hiruzen formed a number of hand seals before slamming his palms on the warm grass. "Earth style. Sinkhole." The area under the fox collapsed as a sinkhole a staggering 600 meters down swallowed the demon fox. "Water style. Stormy blockade." A calm voice called out. Minato was back. "Hold on, didn't you?" Hiruzen grinned as he turned to his successor. "Great minds think alike," the blonde said with a warm smile. Hiruzen let out a chuckle before turning back to the now submerged Kyuubi and going through hand seals once more. Minato quickly flashed through his own seals as they finished the technique at the same time. "Lighting style. Electromagnetic murder." The two men called out as the lighting-infused water shocked the Nine Tails, who struggled to free itself. "We have little time, Hiruzen, we need to begin." The blonde flew through hand seals before biting his thumb and slamming his palms on the ground, summoning a giant toad. "Minato." "Hiruzen?" The toad questioned as he surveyed the area. "No time to explain, Gamabunta, just hold down the Kyuubi when it crawls back up," Minato ordered, and the toad gave a nod, turning to the Kyuubi. "What are you doing, Minato?" Hiruzen asked for the final time, and the blonde Hokage finally answered him. "We're sealing the fox into Narumi. I told you this," he said before turning back to both his children. "Then why is Naruto here?" The Hokage didn't answer and instead drew a number of seals on his son and daughter. "Cursed binding. Heavenly restriction." The Hokage called as the seals on both his children glowed and a ghostly apparition appeared before them. "Speak," it called, voice quiet yet haunting as it stared right through the men, down to their souls. "We wish to seal the Kyuubi and my daughter, Narumi." Minato spoke, his voice shaky yet gaze firm. "And in exchange?" the voice asked. Hiruzen turned towards Minato, anxiously awaiting what he'd be giving the demon in exchange for the sealing. Then it dawned on him. "I won't allow you to sacrifice Naruto to seal this beast," but as Hiruzen moved to interrupt, Minato spoke. "I offer you my son, Naruto's chakra." Chapter 2. Gifted beyond belief. "Can we play tag and Iasen?" Pretty please. Narumi shook her brother back and forth as she whined in his ear. Her twin brother looked down at her and gave her a small smile. "Are you sure you won't quit before I tag you this time?" he teased as he ruffled her strawberry blonde locks. "I promise," she huffed and shook his hand off. They both headed outside the compound and into the expansive, near forest-like, backyard. "So who's it?" the second's older blonde asked before his sister tapped him and ran. "Tag. You're it," she said as she stuck her tongue out. Naruto could only laugh and shake his head before leaning back and stretching his arms. 78,910. On the 10th second he dashed forwards into the forest after his sister. "You'll never catch me." His sister's giggle came from deep within the forest. The older blonde scaled a tree to try and spot her and eventually did behind a rock quite a ways away. "She's gotten faster," he said to himself. "Way faster than when we were 4, and that was what, a year or so back." The boy shook his head and hopped off the branch he was on, going into a roll and making a mad dash towards his sister. However, once he arrived, she wasn't there. A loud scream alerted him to exactly where she was. "Narumi!" the boy yelled as he sprinted towards her destination. Once he arrived, he was met face to face with a wild black bear towering over his sister. "Help me, Anaichin, please." She begged her brother for his help as tears streamed down her eyes. "I don't want to die, Naru, please." She couldn't move. But Naruto could. The boy grabbed the closest stone and ran towards the bear, tossing Narumi behind him. The animal swung its claws towards the older blonde, who ducked its swipe and slammed his rock into its snout. The bear recoiled and Naruto took it as his opportunity to grab a handful of dirt and fling it in the bear's eyes. "Leave my sister alone," the 5-year-old shouted as he slammed his body into the bear, toppling it. He then threw himself on top of the bear before grabbing a slightly large chunk of rock and slamming it into the bear's skull. Over and over. "I'll kill you, I'll kill you, I'll kill you." With each repeat of the phrase, Naruto bashed the animal's head in with a stone. "I'll kill anything that threatens my sister," he was crying and screaming as he mercilessly stoned the bear to death. "Naruto, stop," a strong voice commanded him. The blonde dropped his stone and scampered off the bear, horrified at his work. The bear's skull was caved in with brain matter covering not just the stone Naruto has used, but the boy's hands themselves. Pieces of the bear's skull were embedded into the trees and into Naruto's jacket due to the sheer velocity they flew at due to Naruto's strikes. "Anaichin," a voice called quietly and Naruto turned to view his spectators. His dad looked down towards him with a frown and his sister looked at him with equal parts fear and gratefulness. "Naruto. What happened?" His father demanded an explanation, although he had an idea of what happened. "Me and Narumi wanted to play tag, but when I went to look for her she was gone." Naruto stammered his explanation out and Minato offered a nod. "And you heard her scream, followed her voice and saw the bear?" Naruto nodded as his father finished his explanation for him. "Why yes, I'm sorry." He hung his head in shame, but a tight hug caused him to lift it. It was his sister. "You don't have to apologize, Anaichin, you saved me." Like a ninja would, his sister hugged him as tight as she could while crying into his blood-covered jacket. "Thank you, Naruto." His father bent down and stroked his son's hair. He didn't know it now, but that'd be the last time him and his son were close to each other. 1 year later. "Why can't Anaichin train with me?" Narumi tilted her head to the side as she questioned her parents. They sat in her father's study as a means to avoid Naruto overhearing, chakra sensing seals and privacy seals littering the room. "Naruto-kun is special, Mimi," her mother explained. "He's a late bloomer," her father continued the explanation. "Exactly, we wouldn't want to weaken you by making you wait. You need all your strength to control the Kyuubi." The two looked at each other, silently deciding that this was the lie they'd stick with until Naruto was old enough to know the truth. "So it's because Naru Anaichin didn't unlock his chakra yet?" Her face gained an understanding look as she looked towards her parents. "Exactly," her father smiled, he knew she was bright. "Then I'll just have to become super cool so I can protect Naruto until he can unlock his chakra," she said triumphantly and Minato's smile fell. She'd be waiting for the rest of her life. "I know you will, Narumi." Her father ruffled her hair and she responded with a pout. Little did either three know, Naruto was right outside the door. See, privacy seals work by detecting the chakra of any potential listener and releasing chakra that was stored into the seal. Said chakra slightly interacts with the listener's chakra, causing them to mishear and or miss-see without even altering the flow of said listener's chakra. Simpler privacy seals simply cast a genjutsu, but even that needed to control the chakra flow of a potential eavesdropper to alter the cerebral nervous system, so regardless. Naruto, whom had no chakra, was immune to privacy seals. He heard everything. The blonde boy wiped away falling tears as he rushed outside the clan compound and into the streets of the village. He hadn't known how long he was wandering for, but soon enough the sun fell and the lamps above provided the streets with dim illumination. "Even if I'm a late bloomer, I still want to train with Naru-chan," the 6-year-old said to himself through sniffles. "Watch where you're going, brat." The blonde looked up and realized he'd bumped into a civilian. Sorry, he apologized before stepping out of the man's way, but the brown-haired man hadn't resumed his path and instead opted to look at Naruto, seemingly sizing him up. "You're the Hokage's brat, right?" The blonde nodded. "You're a lot taller than you're supposed to be. The fuck's he feeding you?" The man shook his head and continued off. Naruto was taller than most if not all the people his age. If one looked at him and his sister at the same time they'd assume Naruto was an older brother and not a twin. "Ramen," he answered quietly, but the man was long gone. The blonde continued walking and before long, found himself in the middle of trouble. "Isn't that the Hokage's kid?" Naruto's eyes made out three men right ahead of him barely in his line of sight as they hugged a corner. "Yeah, taller than you'd think he is. He'd make some good money as a hostage." The first man spoke again. "His father would sense him immediately, that's an ass beating, I just don't want." The third one finally spoke. "You didn't hear?" The second man again. "Hear what?" The first man whispered something Naruto just couldn't hear, even with his above-average ears, that caused all three to pounce on him like madmen. Naruto dodged the first attempt to grab him and swatted away the second one, but the third man had managed to grab Naruto from behind and start to drag him away. "Let go of me." The blonde yelled before elbowing the man in the stomach and taking a fighting stance he'd seen his dad use before. "His dad taught him some tricks," the first man said with a grin, and one of his partners followed up. "The Louvre a lot more fun for us." The first and second man dashed at Naruto from opposite angles, hoping to catch him off guard, and for a second it did. Until the boy ran at the man approaching from his front and punched him square in the jaw, shattering it. He then turned around and threw a wide, sloppy hook that managed to catch the second man in the temple, knocking him clean out. "Knew it wasn't worth it," the third man said and ran as far as his legs would take him. Moments later a patrolling shinobi, who heard the commotion, escorted Naruto home. "I need to go to the academy, father." Naruto spoke to his father, eyes gleaming with determination. "Naruto, I'm not sure, you haven't even unlocked your chakra yet, do you truly think you're ready?" He knew his son wouldn't become a ninja, much less graduate the academy. He was attempting to spare his son the disappointment. Naruto leveled his gaze at his father and spoke with full certainty of himself. "Chakra or not, I will study at the academy." "Line up, we're going through the academy basics," the brown-haired instructor ordered his class, who all chorused a groan. "Do we have to?" Naruto spoke, the class humming in agreement. "Yes, the graduation test is right around the corner and I want each and every one of you to be prepared. I've great faith in all of you and know you all have the ability to pass." Iruka's speech reinvigorated the class, who were now all eager to iron out the basics. The students all stood and headed to the training field behind the academy, however the teacher held Naruto back. "Naruto, may I talk to you for a second?" "Of course, sensei," the boy hummed, barely having to look up to meet the man's eyes. "He's getting ridiculously tall," the scarred man mused to himself. "Anai-chan, come on. I don't want you missing my awesome skills." His twin sister called for him from the door. "I'll be out in a bit, Iruka-sensei needs to speak with me." He gave his sister a smile and turned his attention back to his teacher. "Naruto, are you still restricted?" Iruka struggled to find the last word as Naruto's eyes narrowed in frustration. "Yeah, but I know I'll unlock it soon, and when I do I'll surpass any ninja before me." His words and eyes were filled with conviction, so much so that Iruka couldn't help but smile. "I know you will, Naruto, but for now it's the usual, no jutsu for you," the man said, and Naruto nodded. "Yes, sensei," and with that they headed out with the rest of the class. "Next up is Sasuke Uchiha," Iruka read from his list, and the boy stepped up to the painted line. "Good luck, Sasuke." A chorus of female voices screamed as they cheered for the black-haired boy. 15/20ths to pass, you know the drill," Iruka said as he handed the boy the shuriken. Sasuke nodded and slipped 5 shuriken into his right hand before throwing them in quick succession. All but 2 hit, with the boy muttering a curse under his breath before readying 5 more. This time, all 5 hit their mark and a confident smirk fell upon the boy's face as a chorus of cheers filled the training grounds. He readied his second to last set and once again each of them hit his mark. The spectators waited with bated breath and the boy, considered the most talented of the class, readied his final 5 shuriken. Throwing them with conviction, the Uchiha tracked their flight path and watched as only 4 shuriken hit their mark. 17/20ths, amazing, Sasuke, a voice in the crowd called, and the boy simply ignored it and stalked to the side opposite to who were left, those being Naruto and Narumi Namikaze Uzumaki. His sister went first and snapped her shuriken out continuously, managing to land 18/20ths, causing the Uchiha to grumble under his breath. This time a chorus of male voices praised their star Kunoichi. "Naruto, you're next," a brown-haired man called, and the class muttered under their breath. They knew what the outcome would be, and it pissed a certain Uchiha off beyond belief. The taller blonde swapped places with his sister and readied himself. Throwing 5 shuriken from each hand, all 10 hit their mark. Quickly readying his next set, he shot his throwing stars out even faster, and once more all 10 struck perfectly. "Amazing, Anai-chan. A voice yelled and Naruto knew exactly who it was. Perfect 2020th once again. Great job Naruto, the boy being praised blushed and stood amongst his peers, most of them reeking with jealousy. Iruka then explained the next exercise, weapon combat. They'd each pick a weapon of choice, and the first to submit their opponent or have the match called was declared winner. We'll draw names from this kunai pouch, and the two names called shall spar one another. It should go without saying that these weapons are dull and couldn't cut Machi if it was torn halfway through. Iruka explained and began drawing. The first few matches were relatively uninteresting until the next two names were called. Sasuke Uchiha and Narumi Namikaze Uzumaki. The class erupted in gossip as the two most talented students in the class were to be fighting one another. The two students stepped up and Sasuke grabbed a short sword against Naramis Tonfa. Going old school, huh sister? Naruto joked and his sister blushed and nodded before steeling herself and turning towards her opponent. Begin. Iruka called and the two rushed towards each other. Sasuke swung his dull sword overhead, to which Narumi responded with a high block with her right hand in tandem with a punch from her left, sending the boy reeling back. The strawberry blonde girl rushed in once more, but at the last second level changed and slammed the Ravenet with a double leg, sending him to the ground. The Uchiha raised his head and slammed it into the blonde girl's nose, knocking her off and following up with a diagonal slash that Narumi narrowly avoided. The Uchiha, however, predicted this and stepped forward slightly, bringing his sword up from the opposite angle, tagging Narumi in the left shoulder. Iruka moved to call the match as should she have suffered that in actual combat she'd be out of commission, but Narumi shook her head. I just won't use that arm, she said and turned her attention back to the smug Uchiha. Give up. Your father may be great, but you aren't him, he mocked as he readied his sword once more. And you aren't Itachi, Narumi spat as they narrowed their eyes at each other. The blonde girl made a mad dash at the Uchiha who slashed horizontally at her midsection, but Narumi jumped over the slash, sending a kick into the boy's mouth. Rushing him once more, the boy swung straight down her centerline, but the blade was interrupted by her tonfa as the girl pushed the blade aside and swung her wooden weapon straight at the boy's temple. She's got him now. A student called from the spectators and he would have been right. Had Narumi's stance not been so narrow. Sasuke noticed her poor footing and slid her lead leg to his side, causing her swing to narrowly miss him. He then reeled in his sword and slashed directly at Narumi's neck, with her being unable to block due to her slashed arm. I win. His voice was filled with pride as he watched the Hokage's daughter narrow her eyes at him and walk off angrily. We were close, Narumi-chan, a male student tried to console her, but she wasn't hearing any of it. Just leave me alone for a bit, she spoke with the same tone as her father when he was upset, which sent chills down a majority of the students. Sasuke wins. Next, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze vs Makoto Kama. The two boys stepped up to the weapons block, with Naruto choosing a 3-section staff and Makoto choosing a pair of small sickles. You won't win. My clan is revered for their use of the Kama, it's even in our names. Surrender now. The arrogant brown-haired boy boasted. Naruto gave no response, instead opting to take note of the boy's stance. It's too wide, it'll keep him balanced sure, but anything from his back leg is going to take ages to reach me. He also happens to swing wide, most likely used to larger Kama, Naruto assessed before shifting into a slightly wide stance and snapping the staff together. I can beat him. And with that thought Iruka began the match. Makoto circled Naruto awaiting an attack from the taller blonde. I'll wait until he attacks, then attack one of the staff's joints and take it from him. Instant win. The boy's plan was solid and he patiently awaited Naruto's attack. The taller blonde narrowed his eyes as he realized something. He wants to disarm me. I'll use that. Naruto held out his staff and tossed it into the air. Ha! The spectators shouted as their eyes tracked the weapon, even Makoto stared at the falling weapon in confusion. All eyes were on that staff except for two, Iruka who saw through the trick. And Naruto who threw a rear leg roundhouse into the boy's side, causing him to drop his kamo and clutch his aching side. The taller blonde caught his staff and pointed it to the brown-haired boy's skull, and Iruka called the match. Naruto wins. He was unbelievably proud of the boy and knew he had the potential to go far. If only he had chakra, Iruka thought to himself and his smile faltered. That was awesome, Anaichin, you beat him 15 seconds. His sister cheered as she wrapped him in a hug. Alright, settle down. There's one last exercise for today. It'll take some time, so we'll do the ninjutsu tests tomorrow. What is it, Iruka-sensei? A pink-haired girl besides Naruto asked. The Taijutsu tournament, he answered as the girl audibly gulped. Not good with Taijutsu? Naruto asked the girl who turned to him and nodded. Not really. I'm good with books and tactics, but anything physical, she trailed off and Naruto could understand her anxiousness. It'll take sensei a while to set up the brackets, I could give you some pointers while you wait. He offered and the girl smiled and nodded. That'd be wonderful. I'm Sakura, by the way, Sakura Haruno, she stuck her hand out. Naruto Namek is Uzumaki, though I'm sure you knew that, he said with a small smile of his own. Yeah, she answered sheepishly. So, Sakura-san, show me what you can do, he instructed as she slipped into the basic academy stance and threw a few strikes. You seem to have the basics down well, he started. Thank you. She beamed. But it won't work for you, he finished, and her face fell. Oh, she looked dejected, but Naruto continued to speak. The basic academy style is similar to Shotokan karate, well-rounded and strong, but you'd be much better off adopting a slightly wider stance and slipping in and out of guards to deliver blows after missed strikes. Try and bait out some punches, and before they can retract, slip in and hit where it hurts. Naruto advised, and Sakura nodded, filled with renewed vigor. Okay. She said before Naruto ran her through some drills using her new style. Alright, class, the bracket has been organized and first up to fight are Ino Yamanaka versus Shino Ibura, Maruka called, and the two stepped away from the crowd and readied themselves. Once I win, I'll prove my strength to Sasuke-kun and we can get married, she said more to herself than anyone as they both slipped into the academy Taijutsu stance. Begin. Ino immediately dashed at Shino, who threw a rear leg round kick that Ino front flipped over, landing behind Shino. The boy quickly threw a spinning back fist that Ino leaned back to avoid, which turned into a back handspring, her leg clipping Shino in the jaw in the middle of it. I forfeit, Shino told Iruka, raising his hand. And why's that? Iruka questioned his student. Ino's fighting is already unique to her. It includes acrobatics and other strange maneuvers, and I'm too inexperienced with Taijutsu to counter them. And since she works in her family's flower shop, presumably carrying inventory, she's physically stronger than me. I had no hope of winning, Shino explained, and Iruka applauded. Very good, Shino. Being a good shinobi oftentimes involves gauging your opponent and if you can't beat them, falling back. Iruka lectured the class as Shino returned to the crowd. You did good, Shino, that spinning back fist would have knocked her out clean, Shikamaru comforted his friend, who shook his head and adjusted his glasses. Had it landed, Shino said, a bit disappointed in his performance. Meanwhile, Ino turned to the Uchiha and flashed a grin. Did you see that, Sasuke-kun? Ino called out to him. Think I'm strong enough to marry? She asked the boy, who turned to look at her. No. The next match is Kiba Inuzuka versus Miwakawa, Iruka called, and immediately the blue-haired girl raised her hand. I surrender, she said quietly. And may I ask why? Iruka asked the girl. Kiba-kun is physically stronger than me, not to mention my clan is focused on Kenjutsu rather than Taijutsu. Kiba-kun's clan fights almost exclusively using Taijutsu and Taijutsu-biased techniques. I'd lose if I were to fight him, she explained, and Iruka nodded. Very good. Winner by forfeit, Kiba. Despite the forfeits, Iruka was proud of them. They were able to acknowledge the skill gap between an opponent and save their livelihoods. Though unintentional, Iruka was teaching 2 lessons today. Nice job, Kiba. You beat her without having to throw a punch. A classmate called out and Kiba wiped his nose. Yup. I'm just that awesome. The next match is Sakura Haruno versus Shinji Akimichi, Iruka called, and Shinji made his way towards the circle they'd be fighting in. Sakura, however, was hesitant. It's okay if you forfeit, Sakura, he's a lot stronger than you, Ino said to her best friend, and for a short while she considered it, but a firm hand rested itself on her shoulder. You're strong too, Sakura, remember what we went through, and I know you'll be strong enough to challenge him, Naruto comforted her, and she gained a determined look in her eye, along with some pink on her cheeks, before walking towards the circle confidently. Begin. Iruka called, and Sakura adopted the stance Naruto had taught her. Shinji, not recognizing the style in the slightest, swung a slow, but very powerful, fist at the pink-haired girl. Sakura waited until it got too far to retract, slid back, and let the fist pass her, before quickly sliding back in. And nailing Shinji square in the jaw. The larger boy reeled back as Sakura looked at her fist. I hit him. She thought to herself proudly before a voice brought her out of her musings. Dodge. Naruto screamed at the pink-haired girl, who narrowly avoided a hammer fist aimed at her skull. She quickly slipped back into her stance and awaited for Shinji's next blow. He swung a lot faster this time. Sakura sidestepped the blow and used the momentum to throw a round kick at the boy's knee, dropping him to the ground. She quickly set up a straight punch to follow, but the larger boy caught her fist dead and used his free hand to send her flying with a punch to the stomach. I think I'm gonna, she couldn't finish her sentence as she expunged the contents of her lunch out onto the ground. Sakura, I think you should forfeit, Iruka began as he began raising his hand to call the match, but Sakura stopped him. I want to keep going, her voice was shaky and her stance even shakier, but her eyes were filled with determination and a need to utterly crush her opponent. Iruka reluctantly lowered his hand and allowed the fight to continue as the two students fell back into their stances. Shinji, again, took the initiative and threw a teep at Sakura's chest, but the girl stepped off the center line and responded with a hook to the boy's temple, dizzying him. She then pressed on, throwing a leg kick at the larger boy's right thigh while aiming an elbow at his forehead, which cut and drew blood. Meanwhile, the spectators were in awe. I didn't know forehead had it in her. What exactly did you say to her, Naruto? Ino asked her fellow blonde, who just shrugged. I just gave her some pointers. Back in the ring, Sakura threw blow after blow, but none, aside from the cut on his forehead and his aching leg, seemed to do any significant damage. You hit a little hard, Sakura, but you don't have the muscle to keep up with me. Chimjai informed before he swatted her next blow away and sent a hard punch to her sternum, causing her to sprawl on the ground and clutch her chest, gasping for air. Winner CHLJI. Haruka yelled as he ran to the ring to check on Sakura, but a blur flew past him and scooped her up. It was Naruto. I'll take her to the nurse, don't worry, I'll be back before my fight, Naruto said to his teacher, who nodded and sent him off, calling the next match. How are you feeling? Naruto asked the pinket. Horrible. I threw up and got sick, then got my ass beat, she said, and Naruto chuckled. You cut him and his leg looks like raw chashu. You did amazing, Sakura-chan, he comforted the girl, noticing the suffix change and blushing. Thank you, Naruto-kun. It was his turn to blush. Winner, Shikamaru. Haruka called as the winner in question sighed and went back to the rest of the students. 2 in 1 day, Makoto. Me personally, the brown-haired boy's friend commented, but was shut up with a wooden kamo to his throat. Shut up. Next fight is Sino Yamanaka vs Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki, Haruka called, and the two blondes stepped into the ring. Blonde vs blonde. Friendly fire hurts my heart, Ino joked, and Naruto responded with a smile before falling into his stance. Always so serious, the platinum blonde muttered to herself before falling into the academy stance. Begin. Haruka called and Ino zigzagged towards Naruto, who threw a front kick in response. The girl grinned and flipped gracefully over the kick, ready to punch Naruto in the back of the head, but the blonde boy pivoted before she could land and side-kicked her in the stomach. Meanwhile, the spectators looked on in awe. He reacted faster than she landed. It's like he predicted her moves before he threw the front kick, Mua commented, and a boy laughed before adding on. It's almost as if he has the Sharingan, he joked, but a punch from the resident Uchiha shut him up. Back in the ring, Naruto was blocking all the strikes thrown at him, as if he truly knew each of her moves before she threw them. Ino grit her teeth and dropped low for a sweep, but the moment she did, Naruto raised his lead leg and sent an axe kick right into the top of her head, knocking her out clean. He's a monster. Even without chakra, it's like every one of his senses is at 11, Haruka marveled in his mind as he called the match for Naruto. Next match is Hinata Hyuga vs Kiba Inuzuka, Haruka called as the two stepped into the ring. I'll go easy on you, Hinata-chan, the boy said, his chest swelling with pride as Hinata nodded and fell into her clan's famous Ken stance. Thank you, Kiba-san, she stammered out as Haruka began the match. It wasn't even close. Kiba rushed at the girl, who numbed his arms with 4 ferociously fast strikes to the arms. The boy tried to fall back, but she sent him to his knees with a leg kick and finished him with a palm to the temple, knocking him out clean. The spectators were speechless. I will prove my strength to Naruto-kun. The girl thought to herself as she took her place back within the crowd. The next fight is Sasuke Uchiha vs Shinji Akimichi, Haruka called as the two boys nodded at each other and walked inside the ring. Once Haruka began the match, Shinji dashed at the Uchiha, who barely had time to fall into his clan's Taijutsu stances and block the oncoming punches. I just have to keep up the pressure and I'll win. Shinji instructed himself as he threw a hard teep at Sasuke's chest. The Ravenet smirked and stepped off the center line, causing Shinji to overextend and start to fall towards. The Uchiha took advantage of his off-balance state and sent a kick that landed right on the boy's nose. Breaking it. Shit, it's broken. The larger boy said as tears mixed with blood stained the circle. This is the power of the Uchiha's Taijutsu, he boasted as the Haruka raised his hand to end the match. Shinji refused to be beaten in such a manner. The larger boy stood and threw a low side kick to the Ravenet's knee, who slightly raised his leg to avoid the kick. That was what Shinji was waiting for. He pounced on Sasuke, using his superior weight to pin the boy down and lay several blows on his face before he was pushed off. Get off of me, pig, the Uchiha spat as he stood and dusted himself off. They both reset and dashed at each other again, however this time Shinji had a new plan. His Taijutsu style focuses on intercepting strikes and countering them. If I get a hold of him, he'll have no choice but to take my punches. Shinji theorized and gripped Sasuke's collar, turned 180, and threw the Uchiha over his hip. He then wrapped the smaller boy in a rear naked choke in an attempt to finish the fight via submission. Let go of me. Sasuke grunted as he wrestled to a standing position. The Ravenet then lifted his leg and slammed his foot into Shinji's already damaged right thigh, sending immense pain through the larger boy's leg. The boy initially refused to give up his hold, however, a desperate Sasuke sent kick after kick into his thigh until the leg gave up and the Ravenet was freed. Match Sasuke. Haruka called, but Sasuke advanced towards the larger boy and reared his leg back. "Keep your hands off me, pig," he spat. And sent his kick right into Chimchi's jaw, shattering it. Haruka immediately restrained the boy as Naruto and Shikamaru carried the unconscious boy into the infirmary. "Sasuke Uchiha. If I ever see you attack another comrade in such a manner, I will personally make sure a leaf hand band never graces your forehead. Is that understood?" It wasn't a question. Sasuke gave a nod and returned to the spectators. Not an ounce of praise was given. "I apologize for such an unsportsmanlike display, but let's continue." Haruka apologized as he read out the next match, Narumi vs Shikamaru. "I forfeit." Shikamaru raised his hand immediately after the match was read. "May I ask why?" Although he already had a good idea of the answer. "She's been personally trained by the Hokage, not to mention she's upset after her weapons match with Sasuke. I'd rather not end up like Sakura Urchigai." "No offense," Shikamaru explained, and Haruka nodded his head. "Alright, and with that we head into our semi-finals. Everyone take 15 minutes and reconvene," Haruka instructed as the class silently dispersed. "Are you hungry?" Naruto asked the pink cat who sat upright in her bed. He'd come to visit her in the nurse's office. "Inda," she spoke quietly. After puking up her lunch in front of the class, she could use something to eat. Naruto nodded and held out a few oranges he had put in his bag before he left. "It's nothing really special, sorry," Naruto said with a blush, but Sakura gingerly accepted the oranges and started to peel one. "Thank you, Naruto-kun," she said softly, popping a slice into her mouth. Naruto could only blush and nod as they sat in the silent office together, enjoying not just the oranges, but each other's company. The 15 minutes had passed and the spectators' mood significantly improved. "Narumi-chan's gonna win for sure," a student proclaimed, pointing an accusatory finger at his classmate. "Nah, Sasuke-kun is." The classmate responded as she pointed a finger back at her classmate. "You're only saying that 'cause you're in love with him." The girl blushed and turned to the side before accusing her classmate of the same crime. "You're only saying that 'cause you're in love with her." It was now the boy's turn to blush and look away. 5,000 Ryo says Narumi wins, the boy yelled, fishing out a fistful of cash, to which the girl pulled out her own money. "You're on." Hinata watched the interaction with a slight frown on her face and decided to speak up for once. "I think Naruto-kun is going to win," she said through stammers, and the class just stared her down. Before laughing. "Yeah right. 5,000 Ryo on Naruto getting his ass kicked," a student yelled, and bets started flying in left and right. Even Sasuke bet money on Naruto's defeat. "Look, Hinata, Naruto is strong, but he was fighting civilians and minor clans. These two are on a whole different level. Hell, I bet you could beat him if you tried." A student explained, and she shook her head no. "Naruto will win this tournament," she said with determination, no stutter present. "Then put your money where your mouth is," the student teased. Hinata did just that. "Welcome to the semi-finals of our Taijutsu tournament," Haruka announced as he displayed a board with the remaining bracket. The remaining 4 fighters studied the board with 2 narrowing their eyes at each other. "It's about time I get my rematch." Narumi stared the Uchiha in the eyes as she grit her teeth. "The result will be the same," the Ravenet boasted, but Narumi just shook her head. "I promise you it won't be." Her tone was cold and her eyes colder as she turned towards her twin brother. "Make it to the finals, little sister. I want to see just how much father has taught you." The strawberry blonde nodded her head before flashing her twin a grin. "You don't have to worry about me, if anything worry about Hinata-chan, she hits hard," Narumi said with a giggle, and her brother flashed a small smile. "Our first semi-finals match is Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki vs Hinata Haikage," Haruka said with a little flair as the two entered the ring. "You don't hold back, and Naruto-kun?" she asked the tall blonde. "I respect you far too much to do that, Hinata-san," he said with a smile, causing the shorter girl to blush furiously. Meanwhile, with the spectators. "My money's on Hinata," Makoto said to his classmates, who chorused in agreement. "It's a pure Taijutsu match. I don't think anyone can beat a Haikage in that regard save for Narumi or Sasuke." Student chimed in, but surprisingly Ino spoke out in disagreement. "Hinata is strong, yeah, but Naruto's an animal. You guys haven't fought him, but I have. It's like you're fighting a beast who knows your every move and is faster than you, stronger than you, and wants nothing more than to tear you apart piece by piece." Ino's voice was shaky and her tone fearful as the students failed to find their words and instead turned to the match. "Begin." Haruka called, but neither moved from their starting positions. "Naruto-kun would counter everything I throw should I rush in. If I want even a chance at winning, I need to bait him in," Hinata thought to herself as she fell into her clan's famous Taijutsu stance. 9 times out of 10 she's waiting for me to attack so she can counter. It's a good plan, but there's one problem, her body can't keep up. I'll pressure her, and when her guard opens I'll strike clean and decisively. Unbeknownst to Hinata, Naruto had already deconstructed her plan. The blonde made a mad dash at Hinata, moving so fast that Iruka could barely keep up with him and threw an open palm at Hinata's sternum. The girl moved to counter, but the blonde changed the direction of his hand, retracting it and hitting her square in the nose with a back fist. It's dislocated. He barely touched me. Hinata thought to herself in confusion. Switched stances and Hinata narrowed her eyes. It's not a switch kick, Naruto spoke, barely loud enough for Hinata to hear. He knew what I was thinking. She slightly hunched down to guard her body, she'd watched Naruto fight before and his switch kicks were usually aimed for the body. The blonde in question pivoted 360 and used the momentum from the switch kick to throw a crushing heel kick to Hinata's skull, who was sent reeling. The spectators turned to Ino. I told you. When you fight Naruto, you're fighting someone whose natural senses are turned to 12. He sees every muscle twitch, hears every change in breath and feels every weight shift. When you're battling him, you might as well be. Naruto cut her off as he outwardly blocked a palm for Hinata, not even bothering to counter. You're an open book, Hinata. The boy exclaimed as he grabbed her wrist. Then I'll make it a story you've never read before, she grinned as she threw a kick that landed clean on the taller boy's jaw, causing his head to tilt back. Meanwhile, Ino added commentary once more. I've noticed that after fighting or interacting with Naruto, one of two things happens. You're overwhelmed and attempt to escape by any means. Like you. Joke. She continued, or you start to enjoy it to the point where the only thing on your mind is proving yourself. Her mind drifted to Sakura and how her need to win reminded her of Naruto. Hinata-san has a crush on him, so right now she's fighting to prove herself to him and herself, Miwa commented as she observed the match. Naruto continued to block strike after strike from the smaller girl, who was hellbent on keeping him on the defensive. He was planning on putting pressure on me until I slipped. Naruto-kun, it's like you're a fighting genius. I hope you don't me taking your plan, she thought to herself as she pressed onwards. She's keeping me on the back foot until I slip up. She figured out my plan. Clever, guess I'll bite, Naruto thought to himself as he continued to defend before purposely overextending a block. I got him. Hinata shot forward, ready to prove herself to the man she admired, but an unexpected knee to the stomach sent her crumpling into the cold dirt. The lavender-haired girl rolled for a while before shakily standing up. I thought that'd take her down for sure, she's tougher than I thought, Naruto thought to himself and smiled. He'd have to put a little more behind his blows. The shorter girl rushed the taller boy and sent a flurry of fingers at pressure points, all of which Naruto blocked or evaded. You're like an iron wall, she said in amazement, and Naruto offered her a nod of appreciation. First I'll wear her down. Naruto planned and began his offensive. He caught a palm aimed at his sternum and used his opposite hand to grab Hinata's hair. And guide her head into his knee. The boy then dropped low and sent an elbow right into the girl's stomach before rising once more and sending two side kicks into the girl's chest in quick succession. As the girl fell, Naruto dashed at her and tackled her to the ground. Then, I'll go for the submission. He finished as he choked Hinata via arm triangle. The girl struggled to get out, and paired with the blows she just suffered, it took her no time to tap and for Naruto to be declared the winner. The spectators were anxious about their potential financial loss. Sorry, I went so hard on you, Hinata-san, the blonde said as he helped his classmate to the nurse's office. It's okay, Naruto-kun, she said as her face turned beet red at the physical closeness of her and her Naruto-kun. You're strong, Hinata-san, you picked up on my plan and used it to catch me in the face. You're pretty awesome, he finished with a grin, and Hinata decided that the dislocated nose and bruised ribs were worth it. Naruto has earned himself a spot in the finals, and now these two fighters will battle for the opportunity to take on the blonde beast. Will it be a battle of siblings or a battle of light and dark? Iruka was way into his role. Just announced the next fight. A student shouted from the crowd and Iruka gained a tick mark on his forehead. Narumi Namikaze Uzumaki vs Sasuke Uchiha, Iruka called as the two fighters made their way to the drawn ring. We finally have our rematch, Narumi said to the Ravenet, who stared at her smugly. And as I've said before, it will end much the same. His tone was filled with confidence as he fell into his clan stance. I'll make sure that it doesn't, she spat as she fell into her own Taijutsu stance, and Iruka started the match. The two exploded at each other right out of the gate, with Narumi throwing a switch hook demonstrated by Naruto the match earlier. I'll have to apologize for stealing your move, Inai-chan, the girl thought as her heel collided with the boy's jaw. She immediately followed up with a flying knee to the same target, which sent the Ravenet sprawling onto his back. Narumi wasted no time and raised her leg high into the air, ready to finish the fight with a decisive blow. Until Sasuke swept her leg out from under her. Narumi quickly caught herself and narrowly flipped out of the way of what would have been a devastating front kick. It was Sasuke's turn on the offensive. The Ravenet swatted a hook off course and responded with a straight punch right into her sternum. He then followed up with a side kick to her face and a low leg kick that Narumi had managed to check before quickly responding with a switch kick that nailed the boy between the ribs. That style needs a Sharingan to actually work. Narumi spat as she pushed Sasuke back to gain some distance. The two circled each other for a while, waiting for the other to throw a strike before someone finally moved. Die! Sasuke yelled as he jumped high into the air. The Ravenet front flipped while sticking his heel out, intending on crushing the blonde skull, but the kick was met with a high block. Sasuke grinned as he wrapped his extended leg around the blocking arm and moved it out of the way, using his other leg to slam his foot into the strawberry blonde's face. Narumi tumbled back, but the moment she regained her footing an elbow cut right into her forehead, causing blood to flow freely. Narumi managed to block the next punch, but failed to stop the knee that landed right between her ribs. Sasuke grinned maniacally as he swept the girl's feet from out under her and landed a crushing punch to her face as she fell, sending a loud thud. The spectators were silent, awaiting Narumi's next move with bated breath for what seemed like hours until finally. She stood. The strawberry blonde stood shakily and spat blood out of her mouth and expelled it from her nose before looking at her adversary and laughing. "Ah, what the hell? If you're so good at predicting, try and keep up," she yelled, her speech sending blood and saliva all over the training grounds. She then rushed the Ravenet and threw a low kick to his knee. The question mark kick. How obvious. The Uchiha thought to himself and raised his knee slightly while the left side of his head. Narumi grinned as she sent the kick to his opposite side, rechambered, and sent a devastating hook kick to the right side of the boy's head, sending him sprawling. Narumi wasted no time and mounted the Ravenet, sending elbow after elbow into his face and forehead, cutting him open. Blood restricted her field of vision, so when the hook punch landed on her jaw, she hadn't even noticed, but in all honesty, she didn't care that it did. The blow did little to shake her as she continued to send blow after blow onto the Uchiha, who scratched, punched, and wriggled desperately to escape the blonde blows, but it was all for nothing. With a final scream and punch, the Uchiha stopped moving altogether and Iruka called the match, quickly rushing the Uchiha to the infirmary. Wow, Makoto breathed as he watched Naruto help his sister to the infirmary. Wow's an understatement, one of his friends added as they tried to absorb what they witnessed. You can tell they're twins, another chimed in, but Miwa shook her head. They're both strong, but it seemed like her attitude came from desperation. When Naruto fights, he intends on crushing you, however he can right out of the gate, she assessed, and Ino nodded in agreement. He's so nice one moment, but the moment a fight comes up it's like he hates the world, she said with a shudder, and Iruka himself chimed in. Sometimes that's the attitude a shinobi needs to win. He then sent them off on a 30-minute break to allow Narumi to recuperate. You were amazing, little sister. Naruto ruffled his twin's hair as her blush peeked out through her bandages. Thank you, Inai-chan. Looks like we're both in the finals, she smiled as she thought of the fight to come. I have to beat him. How can I protect him if I'm weaker than him? She reasoned before clutching her fist. Don't hold back, Narumi. I know my chakra hasn't unlocked yet, but I want you to fight me as if it already has, Naruto said as his gaze settled on his twin sister. You have my word, Inai-chan. She knew she was lying to her brother, but she simply couldn't fight him full force. Everyone passively reinforces their body with chakra, it's what allows us to tank otherwise life-ending injuries. But Inai-chan doesn't have his chakra yet, so it's as if I'm fighting a civilian. She reasoned with herself. As if completely forgetting Naruto's previous displays. Are you ready for the finals? Iruka yelled to his class. Yes. They all screamed their answer as the two finalists entered the ring. These two need no introduction. A battle between siblings to see who is the better hand-to-hand combatant. Iruka hyped the crowd up as they all screamed in excitement. What had started as a training exercise quickly evolved into a test of strength between two siblings. Feeling better, little sister? Naruto asked with a grin. I've always been quick to recover. But they both fell into their stances. Meanwhile, with the spectators. That's on Narumi-san here. Place your bets on Narumi-san, Makoto yelled at the crowd as children eagerly placed their ryo into the tray. The total bet on Narumi totaled a bit over 100,000 ryo. Makoto yelled as he stared at the tray. Well yeah, it's Narumi. She's been trained by the Hokage, while Naruto hasn't even unlocked his chakra. A student explained as he dropped his ryo in the tray. Exactly. I wouldn't be surprised if his tray was empty, a student said with a snort as the spectators turned towards the tray betting on Naruto's win. 21,000 ryo? Who's dumb enough to bet on him? Makoto asked before a voice spoke up. We are. It was Sakura as she thumbed towards a proud Ino and nervous Hinata. You don't like having money, do you? Makoto asked a Pinkat who smiled and turned towards the finalists' match. Trust me, this is the best financial decision I've ever made. Meanwhile, in the ring. Begin. Iruka called and immediately Naruto was in front of his sister, fist barreling towards her head. The shorter blonde stepped off the center line and used the momentum of the step to shoot a restrained round kick that Naruto caught. He narrowed his eyes as he pulled his sister in and grabbed her head, slamming her onto the ground. Do you think I'm weak, Narumi? Naruto asked, staring down his twin sister. The girl in question lowered her head as she stood, refusing to meet her brother's gaze. "You can't reinforce your body with chakra," she said quietly, and Naruto growled. "Chakra or no chakra, I am anything but weak. You continue to fight me this way, you have no chance at winning." He spat at his sister and rushed in again. Before the girl could even register his swing, she felt pain in her stomach and flew back, rolling onto the ground. "You're not weak, Inai-chan, but if I'm not careful I could accidentally kill you," she tried to reason with her brother, who only seemed to grow angrier with every word spoken. He appeared in front of his sister once more and grabbed her head, slamming it into his knee. "Then I'll fight as if to kill you. Return the favor." He walked away from his sister and settled on the opposite side of the ring, allowing Narumi to think. He sees what I'm doing as an affront to his strength. If that knee is any indication, he can keep up and even surpass my reflexes and speed. If I don't fight seriously, she trailed off. "He really might kill me," Narumi said as she stood and met her brother's eyes. For a while they stood, staring each other down until finally, a grin settled on each of their faces. "Kill me, little sister. Kill me, older brother." They spoke at the same time and rushed at each other, neither holding back. Naruto lashed out with a lead leg sidekick that Narumi narrowly avoided. She responded with a sweep to his legs that sent Naruto falling to the ground, but the older blonde had managed to grab her collar and pull her down with him. The younger blonde managed to mount her brother and start to levy blows onto him that Naruto took in stride as he quickly threw her off of him and rose to his feet. The two dashed at each other again, with Naruto managing to grab her arm and toss her over his hip, sending her to the ground. He then sent a brutal kick to her ribs that left her rolling across the fighting ring. Meanwhile, with the spectators. They're actually fighting like they're trying to kill each other," Ino breathed as she watched the match continue. Back in the ring, Narumi had put Naruto on the defensive, throwing blow after blow that continuously put her brother on the back foot. "I've got him," she thought as his rear leg was pushed back and she moved to attack him. Naruto, however, had planned for this and sent a brutal rear leg round to her ribs, sending her crumpling onto the ground. She quickly stood and pivoted 360, sending a tornado kick that caught her brother clean in the jaw before he could follow up his attack. The two siblings breathed heavily and circled each other for what seemed like eons to the spectators before Narumi threw a spinning back kick that sent Naruto reeling back. She rushed in, level changing in hopes to catch Naruto with a double leg takedown, but Naruto reacted far faster than she thought even possible and slammed his knee into her chin. She allowed herself to fall and used the momentum to balance herself on her hands and throw a cartwheel kick at her twin brother, who took a slight step back and sent a roundhouse into her ribs, knocking her onto her back. "I know you've got more in you." Naruto spoke with a grin, and his sister shot up and rushed him. She leaned forward and right before Naruto could strike her outstretched chin, fell and caught him right on the temple with a rolling thunder. Naruto snapped his head back, but when his head leveled, his sister was gone. "Behind you," she whispered, and he felt a debilitating pain in his spine as she grabbed his shoulders and rammed her knee into his back. The older blonde grit her teeth and turned around, throwing a kick that Narumi dodged and responded with an open palm to her brother's nose, breaking it. She then wrapped her arms around the older blonde and sent him sprawling to the ground before shifting her position and catching the boy in a deep arm triangle. "It's in pretty tight, I can't breathe at all," Naruto thought to himself. "My technique is perfect, I have this match in the bag." She cheered in her head, but she seemingly forgot one thing. Naruto was physically stronger than his entire class. The taller blonde stood and peeled his twin sister off of him before slamming her into the ground and following up with a punch right to the nose, returning the favor. He then grabbed a fistful of his sister's hair and raised her to eye level before headbutting her in the skull, causing her to clutch her head in pain. The smaller blonde kicked her brother in the arm, facilitating her release, and tried to step back, but an outstretched leg sent her falling. Before the girl could even touch the Naruto threw a Brazilian kick that accelerated her descent and caused her to spit blood. "You're truly strong, little sister." Naruto commended his twin, who shakily stood and walked towards her brother, throwing a weak punch that missed entirely and caused her to fall to the ground. "Unconscious." Naruto wince. Haruka called as the crowd burst into cheers. Sure, they were out a ridiculous amount of money, but the spirit of the fight was well worth the cost. Sakura, Hinata, and Ino had extra reason to celebrate, however. "We're rich." Ino shouted to the top of her lungs and wrapped the two other girls in a tight hug. The two siblings awaited the end of the school day in the infirmary, with Naruto thumbing through his share of the money from the bed and Narumi trying her hardest not to move due to the pain. Eventually, the two were sent home, and as soon as they hit the door, their parents only had one question for the twins. "Have you two lost your minds?" A few months had passed since the tournament, and it was finally the day they'd been preparing for. "I'm so gonna ace this test," a student said to his classmate, who nodded in agreement. The mood was high for almost all of the class, as two students felt sad for one of their fellow classmates. It was the day of the graduation test. And Naruto had yet to unlock his chakra. "Settle down class," Iruka said to the class, and for once they listened the first time and settled into their seats. "Don't act so surprised, sensei, we've always been good kids," a student snickered as Iruka shook his head and stifled a chuckle. "Yeah right. Today we will be testing you in your shuriken jutsu, taijutsu and, finally ninjutsu," Iruka explained and beckoned the class outside for the first part of the test. The students lined up and awaited their names to be called up to take the test. "Makoto Kamo," Iruka called, and the brown-haired boy stepped up, readied himself, and threw his shuriken in short bursts. He managed to get exactly 15/20ths, which passed him, albeit by the skin of his teeth. "Nice job, man." The boy's friend cheered as the brown-haired boy returned to his place in the line. Iruka continued to call the children with Naruto not paying attention until he called the next name. Sasuke Uchiha the Ravenet stepped up to the line and tried his best to hit a perfect 20/20ths. By copying Naruto's throwing form. "I shouldn't be surprised," Naruto thought as the boy managed to hit 19/20ths targets. The Ravenet smirked at Naruto as he returned to his spot in line. "Narumi Namikaze Uzumaki," Iruka called, and the strawberry blonde stepped up and threw her shuriken in a continuous stream, hitting 18/20ths targets. The girl kissed her teeth before returning to her spot in line. Naruto's name was called next, and rather than throw like he normally did, the boy tossed 15 shurikens straight into the air and used his remaining 5 to knock them into their targets, all while not sacrificing the trajectory of said 5 shuriken. He scored a perfect 20/20ths. "Copy that, Uchiha," he spoke to the boy as he returned to his place in line, said boy seething at the blonde. "I know the tournament was somewhat recent, but the next portion of the test will be taijutsu, only this time you won't be fighting each other," a voice cut him off. "You'll be fighting us," Mizuki said as he cracked his knuckles. Iruka cleared his throat. "Yes, you'll be fighting us, but the goal isn't winning, merely showing us that your taijutsu is adequate enough to become genin," the haired ninja explained. "I want a crack at that no chakra brat. It'll be just like crushing the head of a civilian child," the silver-haired Chunin licked his lips as Iruka called names. The matches were mostly boring with an equal mix of passing and failing grades. "Next, Sasuke Uchiha," Iruka called before setting down his clipboard. He'd be fighting the genin hopeful himself. "Begin." Mizuki called and Sasuke rushed forward, immediately throwing a rear leg round kick to the Chunin's head which he caught and threw to the side. Sasuke used that momentum and carried it into a hook kick that narrowly grazed a brown-haired man's chin. Iruka willingly kept on the defensive to allow the boy's offensive capabilities to shine, but now it was time to see how well his defense was. The older man threw a front kick that Sasuke barely managed to avoid before having to hastily block a hook that almost caught him. Iruka kept the pressure up with Sasuke managing to block the man's attacks, albeit by the skin of his teeth, and before long Mizuki called the match. "Very good Sasuke, though you should definitely start stepping off the center line more. Blocking will only get you so far," the brown-haired man advised his student. The Uchiha nodded and found his place back in line as Iruka called the next match. Narumi vs Iruka. "I've faith in you, little sister," Naruto said as his sister smiled and headed into the ring. The match was surprisingly uneventful as she kept overwhelming pressure on the Chunin while skillfully evading blows levied at her. The match ended and Iruka commended the strawberry blonde before calling the final taijutsu test. Next, Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki the blonde stepped into the drawn ring and stared down his silver-haired opponent, the man in question simply smiling at Naruto as Iruka started the match. Naruto was on Mizuki in an instant, slamming his palm into the man's nose before switching stances and carrying the momentum into a spinning hook that sent the silver-haired ninja to the ground. "Alright brat." Mizuki spat at the blonde, "Let's see how well you defend." He growled as he tossed a patch of dirt into Naruto's eyes, blinding him. The Chunin ran laps around the boy before deciding on striking from his left side. Mizuki raised his rear leg, ready to shatter the genin hopeful's kneecap, but the blonde's own leg intercepted it. "Every time you attack you suck in a little air, and since it came from my left, I knew that's where you were attacking," Naruto explained as he rubbed the dirt out of his eyes. Mizuki growled and raised his fist, ready to send a low uppercut to Naruto's body, but a hand quickly stopped him. "The test is over, Mizuki," Iruka told his fellow Chunin before leading the children to the final test. Ninjutsu. To pass this test is simple. Perform the transformation jutsu, substation jutsu, and clone jutsu, Iruka instructed as he started calling names, and with each name called, he got closer and closer to the name he dreaded the most. Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki the boy looked sad, angry, annoyed, and 1,000 other negative emotions Iruka could think of as he trekked to the testing room. "You know the drill," Mizuki said cruelly as he grinned at the trembling Uzumaki. "Chakra," the boy murmured and Mizuki's smile widened. "What was that, boy?" Mizuki questioned as he put his hand to his ear. "My chakra," the blonde said clearly this time, eyes firmly on the ground. "What's wrong with it?" Mizuki held back giggles as he watched tears drop from the boy's face. I don't have my chakra. The blonde received mixed reactions when he stalked back into the room. Most were sympathetic, but others, namely Sasuke and his posse, were grinning from ear to ear. Ino, Hinata and Sakura moved to comfort the boy as his sister was called into the testing room, upset that she couldn't stay to comfort her brother. Naruto-kun Sakura started as she hugged her close friend. The two had become almost inseparable over the months following the tournament, and if Naruto were being honest, she was the only other person, save for Narumi, that he could truly trust. I knew it was gonna happen, Naruto said to himself as Sakura gingerly rubbed his back. You're the strongest person my age I've ever known. Even without chakra, you can tank blows from Chunin like it's no sweat and shatter bones with palm strikes. You'll make it as a ninja, even if it takes a little while longer, she said with conviction and rested her friend's head on her lap, stroking his blonde locks. The tests had concluded and students were sent home to relay the good news to their parents. The entire building was empty save for Naruto. Naruto and Mizuki. I know I may seem mean, but you have potential, Naruto. I want to see you grow into a fine shinobi, the man explained to the blonde who looked at him skeptically. I've never heard of a promotion test such as this, Naruto said to his sensei with a raised eyebrow, and Mizuki started to grow annoyed. Usually when we pass or fail someone it's with certainty that they deserve so. You are gifted beyond belief, but the only thing stopping you is the chakra you've yet to unlock. This is the test used to pass those individuals, Mizuki lied to the blonde who continued to question him. Then why hasn't Iruka-sensei told me about this? Naruto asked the silver-haired man and Mizuki grew annoyed. If you don't want to become a shinobi then just say so, don't waste my time. He began to walk away, but a hand stopped him. Hook, line and sinker, Mizuki thought as he turned to the boy. What do I have to do? He asked, eyes filled with determination. I thought father had privacy seals all over the place, I shouldn't have been able to walk through, Naruto thought as he lugged a scroll to the meeting place with Mizuki. Over here, Naruto. The silver-haired man called and Naruto picked up the place, meeting him and handing him the scroll. So what's next? You give it back to the Hokage and I get my promotion, right? Naruto asked, excitement filling his tone. I'm gonna be a ninja. He thought excitedly as Mizuki chuckled. Not quite, he said as he grabbed the large fkma off his back and swung it at Naruto, the boy barely being able to avoid the weapon as it grazed his forehead. I should have trusted my gut, Naruto growled and fell into his fighting stance. Mizuki cackled and sent a furious kick into Naruto's midsection, blood from his cut obstructing his perception. Shoulda colda walda. He screamed as he threw his fkma at the boy's head. Naruto. A voice interrupted as the sound of metal tearing into flesh filled the forest. Naruto, however, felt no pain and opened his eyes to see Iruka hunched over him, fkma sticking out of his back. Iruka-sensei? He asked the man who offered him a weak smile. Iruka. Always ruining my fucking plans. First it was the teaching job and now the fucking brat. The silver-haired man screamed as Iruka rose to his feet. Leave Naruto out of this. Drop a scroll and surrender before reinforcements arrive, Iruka instructed, peeling the fkma out of his back. Reinforcements? Then I'll have plenty of time kill you. Mizuki screamed and launched himself at Iruka. Barrier method. Triple formula. Iruka called as he slammed his palms into the ground. 3 formulas were inscribed into the ground with an ignorant Mizuki walking right onto one. The moment his foot landed he was blown back by an explosion, deafening him and burning his skin. Yes, Iruka. Keep fighting. Die slower. Mizuki said as he scratched at his skin, tearing flesh off and revealing muscle tissue. The silver-haired man came upon Iruka even faster than before and sent him flying with an uppercut and, right as Iruka fell in front of him, a brutal spinning back kick that sent him crashing through several trees. Be bastard. Iruka coughed his words out alongside blood and phlegm and stared the Chunin down. Hey Naruto. The boy in question turned to him. Do you wanna know why you failed the exam? Why your chakra is taking so long to awaken? The silver-haired man asked the boy who could only stare between his 2 teachers in horror. Mizuki, don't. That's an S-ranked village secret. Iruka practically pleaded with the man as he knew how crushed Naruto would be. I'm his teacher, Iruka. It's time I give him my final lesson. The reason it's taking so long for your chakra to awaken is that you have no chakra, boy. Mizuki cackled at the crestfallen look on his face. What? That's not true, Naruto spoke as a way to convince himself more than to deny Mizuki. Oh, but it is. When you were born your father, in exchange for the total sealing of the 9-tailed fox into your sister, offered up every ounce of your chakra in return. Mizuki explained as he readied another fkma. Naruto turned to Iruka who could only nod his head, there was no point in lying to the boy now. The blonde turned his attention back to Mizuki and his face morphed from sadness to rage as he clenched his fist and ran full force at the Chunin, appearing in front of him in less than a second. I'm going to kill you. The blonde grabbed his former teacher's hair and yanked his head into the awaiting knee, shattering his nose. Why you, brat? Mizuki coughed out as he tried to free himself. Naruto tightened his grip, however, and ran full sprint, slamming Mizuki's head into a nearby tree. A sickening crunch rang through the forest as Mizuki collapsed and clutched his head. "Get up." Naruto spat and the Chunin threw a fistful of dirt into the blonde's eyes. "The last time was a fluke, with outside I'll kill him for sure." Mizuki reasoned in his head and threw a front kick at Naruto's skull from behind. It never reached its target. With a sickening snap, Naruto grabbed the leg and used his elbow to break it clean in half. The boy then stepped back and raised his rear leg as high as he could before bringing it down onto Mizuki's shoulder, popping it out of place. The blonde reared his right hand back and snapped it out, punching so fast that it created a vacuum that impacted Mizuki just as hard as the initial blow. "Divergent fist," Naruto murmured the attack's name as Mizuki flew back. If Naruto were to be honest, he made the attack name up then and there, but he'd take that to the grave. The blonde rushed the man, high blocking a hook and sending a low side kick to the man's knee, shattering it. He twisted his body and sent another divergent fist into Mizuki's body, the blow tearing a hole into his flak jacket. Before Mizuki could be blown back, Naruto grabbed the man's collar and sent a brutal knee into his jaw, shattering it. "He please as though," Mizuki started, but a punch from the blonde shut him up. And knocked him unconscious. Naruto Iruka started and the blonde in question turned to his teacher. "Are you alright, Iruka-sensei?" The brown-haired man could only nod and watch as the blonde rummaged through the traitor's weapon pouch and used the ninja wiring clothes to tie the man up. "I'll carry him to the Hokage, you get checked out," Naruto ordered the man who was still shocked at Naruto's performance. He destroyed Mizuki, a Chunin, like it was nothing. Iruka thought to himself before making a decision. "Naruto, wait." He called and the boy turned to his teacher, traitor slung over his shoulder. "What's wrong, sensei?" he asked, head tilted slightly to the side same as his sister would do. "Close your eyes." The blonde considered the instruction for a bit before shutting his eyes tightly. The blonde almost burst into tears as he felt his sensei wrap a cloth around his head. Iruka had promoted him. He was officially a shinobi. He passed. Minato couldn't believe what he was seeing. His son walked into his office, headband across his forehead, traitorous ninja in hand. Naruto dropped the shinobi in his arms and narrowed his eyes at his father. "Did you truly sacrifice my chakra?" "Who told you that?" The Hokage's eyes narrowed at his son who returned his gaze in full. "So it's true," he spoke more to himself and Minato cursed under his breath. Naruto his son cut him off. "Is this why you didn't want me to become a ninja?" His voice started to rise. "Naruto, you have to understand. What happened to being a late bloomer?" He yelled at his father who could only look at his desk. "We had to seal the fox. And the only way was stripping me of my chakra." Tears were flowing down both of their faces as Naruto grabbed a fistful of his hair and dropped to his knees. "Naruto, I'm sorry, but we didn't have much time. It was either that or the Reaper death seal, and that would have killed one of us." His father was holding back sobs as he explained his reasoning to his son. "Brog!" Naruto screamed and punched a hole in the wall before storming out of the building. "Naruto, wait." His father called and Naruto made a 180 turn. "When I said I wanted to go to the academy to become a ninja, you always pushed back and said I'd be better suited elsewhere. Meanwhile, you always supported Narumi who had the same ambitions. It all makes so much sense now." Naruto growled at his father and left the building, slamming the door so hard it splintered and the doorknob tore off. "Shit." Minato seethed as he slammed his fist on the desk. Shattering it just as his son had. "Thank you for letting me spend the night here," Naruto said to the pin cat as she stroked his hair. "It's no problem. You made such a good impression on my parents they didn't think twice about letting you stay," Sakura said with a chuckle, continuing to stroke his blonde locks. "I'm glad some parents actually like me," he said to himself, and the pin cat knew it wasn't her place to question. "Oh." She snapped her fingers and motioned the boy upwards. "What's wrong?" he asked as he tilted his head and stared at his best friend. My mom bought a whole bunch of snacks from her last trip to the land of rice fields." She caught her words, blushing at the look of her best friend. The blonde's eyes lit up and he thought about the various treats that could have come from the land of rice. "I hear their rice pudding is the best in the world," Naruto commented excitedly as he eagerly awaited the retrieval of the aforementioned snacks. "It's kind of a lot." She struggled to carry the heavy box into her room and set it down with a grunt. "Whoa." The blonde had sparkles in his eyes as he eagerly rummaged through the box, picking out the items he thought looked good and settling himself on his friend's bed. "Cinnamon churro rice cakes." She read the label before looking at her friend. "What's a churro?" "No clue. But they smell good." He opened the package and took a bite, humming in approval. "Let me try one," the pin cat said as she pointed towards the bag. Naruto nodded and held out a rice cake for her to try. The one that he had just taken a bite out of. The pin cat blushed and took a bite out of the rice cake offered to her. "It's good, right?" Naruto grinned and she nodded her head. "Yeah, it's good." Her tone was hushed as she brought a hand to her lips and brushed her fingers over them. "Catching up on some reading." "That's not like you," a voice teased and Naruto knew immediately who it was. "Good to see you too, Ino," his Sony sarcastic as he acknowledged his fellow blonde. "Why so hostile?" she said in mock hurt, clutching her chest. "Did you not just insinuate me being dumb?" A small smile came to the taller blonde's face as Ino feigned surprise. "Why it?" She breathed, her hands on each of her cheeks, mouth agape. Whatever. The taller blonde adjusted his white and orange windbreaker as he continued to peruse the library before finally settling on a book. Weapons of Legend. 20 mythical weapons scattered throughout the ninja world. Ino read the title and Naruto feigned applause. Who knew the boar could read? He sniggered as a tick mark found its way to the platinum blonde's forehead. Yeah. Planning on looking for one?" she asked and Naruto nodded. "The situation regarding my chakra isn't going to improve anytime soon, so I need other ways to close the gap." Ino nodded her head in understanding and grabbed the book from her fellow blonde's hands, thumbing through it. Playful Cloud. She marveled at the red 3-section staff and imagined Naruto fighting bandits with a supposedly legendary weapon. "I can't say I'm too experienced with staffs, especially 3-section ones, but I'd like to learn," he commented, and his fellow blonde nodded. "You're basically already a weapons master, so I know you'll get it in no time. You're cool like that." The taller blonde blushed at her compliment and turned his face, scratching his cheek. Thanks." Ino nodded and continued to thumb through the book. The two continued to discuss Naruto's potential arsenal before the platinum blonde noticed the clock and realized her tardiness. "Shit. Naruto, I have to go, but this was fun. Talk more after work," she offered and Naruto nodded. "Sure, if I'm free," he said, and the girl moved to walk out the door but stopped and walked back to the blonde. "Hey, Naruto," she leaned in close, causing the boy's face to flare up. "Why yeah?" he asked and the platinum blonde caressed the back of his head. "Your hair's getting pretty shaggy," and with that, she turned 180 and walked out of the library. Naruto felt around his head and agreed that his hair, indeed, was pretty shaggy. He put it into a ponytail. Naruto begrudgingly walked to his room and scanned for anything that may have been out of place. If he could have it his way, he'd continue to stay with Sakura until he found a place of his own, and to be honest, the girl would let him, but he didn't want to impose nor up and vanish without telling Narumi anything, so here he was. "Home sweet home, I guess," he muttered before spotting a letter on his desk. "Dear Naruto, I know you're upset and so, at the recommendation of your mother, I have given you the space you need to calm down. I am incredibly proud of your achievement, especially considering your current predicament. I urge you to reconsider your profession, however, as a lack of chakra could very easily cost you your life. But who am I kidding, you're Kushina's son, you won't be quitting anytime soon. Instead, I offer my assistance. Should you need anything from me to help you further your career as a ninja, you need only ask." Naruto read the letter and crumpled it. He may have meant well, but the man had no faith in Naruto's abilities. The blonde intended to instill some within his father. Making his way up to his father's study, he pressed his ear to the door and listened for the usual sound of breathing and heartbeats that'd indicate a full room, but found none. "He's probably at the tower forming this year's genin cells," Naruto speculated as he opened the door. It had incomprehensibly complex ceiling matrices designed to prevent entry, but due to the blonde's lack of chakra. He walked right in. The tall blonde scanned through notes, scrolls, and journals, looking for anything that he could use to put himself on equal footing with those who were able to wield chakra. "If I have to fight without chakra, how could I be able to make it?" He cut himself off as the answer hit him like a ton of bricks. "Chakra nullification seals." The blonde frantically searched the study for seals carrying the effect of chakra nullification before his eyes landed on a red and white scroll labeled Yuzu. The blonde unfurled the scroll without difficulty and scanned the contents. Cursed binding. Heavenly restriction. The user may ask for anything ranging from more potent chakra to the sealing of a tailed beast, however they must also sacrifice something of equal value. Naruto immediately surmised that this was the seal used to strip him of his chakra. He continued reading. "Upon repeated trial, we have found that the seal has an interesting side effect when stripping a sacrifice of their chakra. In exchange for their chakra, the sacrifice gains a body well past the peak physical capabilities of Cage. Though thought promising initially, the trade-off of absolute zero chakra has been deemed too high a price to pay." Naruto stared at that section repeatedly. Though he had no chakra, he had the potential to surpass the physical capabilities of the Cage. The blonde restrained himself from jumping for joy as he continued his search. "There has to be a chakra nullification seal in here somewhere," the blonde grumbled as he continued to read the Yuzu scroll. "Nullification talisman, bingo. Just what I need." He snickered as he continued to read. "The nullification talisman is a seal that nullifies any chakra that comes in contact with it. What's interesting, however, is that the chakra is not dispersed as one would normally expect, it is instead absorbed and used to power the seal. This means that the seal is constantly active and, after the initial activation, needs no chakra to maintain activation. It's like this seal was made for me, Naruto said to himself as he quickly snagged a copy of the talisman, presumably made by his father, set the room as it was, and quickly exited. I can use this talisman to nullify jutsu and force people to fight me on my turf, Naruto explained to his pink-haired best friend. The girl was unbelievably happy for the boy in her lap but had to ask an important question. It's kind of inefficient to constantly have to stick a talisman on an opponent, especially if they're speed-based. Is there any way to use it from a distance? She asked and the two pondered her question before reaching a unanimous conclusion. A sword. They both shouted at each other and laughed. I know this shop that can engrave seals into weapons, its homie father engraves the flying Raijin into his kunai. Okage-sama is still a sore subject for him, Sakura noticed as the boy discussed his plan for a talisman engraved sword. Can I help you design it? She wanted to be a part of the process and thankfully for her, Naruto agreed. Absolutely. A regular katana is kinda boring. We need something that reflects how awesome we are. He shot up and pumped a fist into the air, the pinket mimicking with a giggle. Yes, we do. How are you two doing today? The shop owner asked the blonde and pinket. We're doing well Kaguya-sama, Naruto said with a bow, and the older man let out a hearty laugh. How many times do I have to say it Naruto-kun, just call me Tanyajiji, I've known you since you were a little tyke the man grinned as he turned to Sakura. Hello sir she bowed in respect and the man turned back to Naruto. I haven't seen you in months and the day you finally stop by you bring your girlfriend. I see you Nato-chan his grin widened as the blonde in front of him turned beet red. Please don't call me that he murmured and the man cackled. So she is your girlfriend. He turned to the pinket whenever he steps out of line just knock him over the head, it'll iron him out Sakura matched Naruto's hue and nodded her head. Please stop pestering potential customers Otu-sen another voice called. A younger man, still older than the two genin by a few years, emerged from the back of the shop, wiping his hands with his apron. Yeah. What can we do for you Nato-chan? Naruto ignored the nickname and set the talisman on the table, along with a design for the short sword. We'd like a sword made and engraved with this talisman Naruto explained, and the elder man narrowed his eyes. Things like this don't come cheap Naruto the blonde nodded his head and looked at Sakura who nodded. The pinket set down two large bags of ryo on the counter and immediately the older man's playful demeanor came back. Now that's what I like to see Nato-chan. But don't tell me he turned to Sakura once more he's your sugar baby. The three other people in the shop all sputtered while the gray-haired man let out another hearty laugh. It's nothing like that. We're just friends she stammered out as the man counted the ryo in the bags. Friends, lovers, sugar mamas, what's the difference he spoke as he walked off to deposit the ryo into their treasury. If you don't mind me asking Naruto-sama, how did you come up with the money? Forging a unique sword is already a pretty penny, but engraving as well. That'll cost you half of your body, and then some the younger man asked, and Naruto messed with his tan ninja pants as he answered. A large chunk of it is the allowance I've received from my father. What was left Sakura-chan covered. She's awesome like that Naruto explained to the brown-haired man who then turned to the pinket. Oh. I won the money from a bet I made back in the academy. I didn't really need the money so it just sat there until now she really hadn't needed all that ryo as she merely made the bet to prove a point to her best friend's detractors. I see, the man said as he nodded his head. The three stood in comfortable silence until the older man stepped back to the counter. Alright. The sword and engraving will be done in a few weeks, and before you ask, yes, you will have it in time for team assignments. The blonde shut his mouth before bowing to the elder man. Thank you Tanyajiji, Gizmo-san Sakura followed his example and bowed to the two men who waved them off and receded into the forge. Ready to get started on the blonde's weapon. The two friends were in their usual position, Naruto in the pinket's lap as she stroked his hair as they discussed their trip to the forge. What's the story behind the whole Nato-chan nickname? She'd been intrigued ever since she heard the name and saw her best friend's reaction. Ugh the blonde groaned and threw his hands over his face. It can't be that bad she giggled as she pushed the blonde's locks away from his forehead. Fine. When I was little I saw Tanyajiji and my mom eating rice, eggs, and nan. I asked for some, but when I ate it I spit it out, slipped, and it fell on me. Tanyajiji's been calling me Nato-chan ever since Naruto explained and Sakura stifled a giggle. I think Nato-chan is a cute nickname she admitted and the blonde uncovered his face. Then only you can call me it. A few weeks passed and the two settled into a routine of buying various snacks around the village before heading back to Sakura's house to try them. Usually, Naruto would head home before his family ate dinner, despite eating at his friend's and heading straight up to his room when he hit the door, but this time the two had gotten a little too comfortable and fell asleep. Shit. A voice woke the blonde up who started to rub his eyes and look around. "Good morning Sakura-chan." Sakura. The boy shot up and realized that he had fallen asleep in the girl's lap. "Hurry and get dressed, team assignments are today and we have to grab your sword," she ordered as Naruto stood and rummaged through her closet looking for anything he could wear. "Everything that's my size is pink," Naruto called as he started to turn to look for the girl, but she quickly stopped him. "Don't turn around." The two were so far behind schedule that she decided she'd simply get changed in the room to save time. Sorry," he said as he began to grab clothes from her closet. "I've always known she was pretty, but not that pretty," Naruto thought to himself as he lifted his shirt above his head and discarded it on the floor, completely ignorant to his best friend's stares. Who knew he was hiding all that under those bulky windbreakers, she thought to herself, face matching her hair. "Welcome back. Here for the blade, I assume?" Tanya asked as the pink cat and blonde entered the shop. Team assignments are in a couple of hours," Naruto explained, and Tanya gave a nod. "Is that why you're all dressed up, Nato-chan?" the man asked and Naruto looked at himself. "What do you mean? This is about what I usually wear." Sure, it was a little different with a new color scheme, but it was essentially the same. "It's not even close," Tanya snickered as he looked at the blonde. He wore his usual pair of tan ninja pants, save for them being a size and a half too big, a white t-shirt, and a pale pink windbreaker that was left unzipped and a little below his midsection. Yeah. Is the sword done?" he asked eagerly, but Tanya dismissed the question as realization hit him. "Those are your girlfriend's clothes. Did you too?" "No, we did not." Sakura and Naruto cut the elder man off, their faces pink, as the man cackled at their response. "You two are too precious. Gizm, be a good son and hand me the blade," our two lovebirds requested. The man asked his son, who nodded and left to retrieve the blade. "Once he comes back I'll have you register the blade and give it a name," Tanya instructed as he awaited his son's return. "Register the blade? You have to do that?" Naruto tilted his head at the man who shook his head and chuckled. "Typically no, but with weapons engraved with a seal, especially one as strong as the one in your blade, they are considered special and are assigned an ES rank before being registered and receiving a value in Ryo," the smith explained, and Naruto nodded in understanding. "So what would my sword be ranked and valued?" Naruto asked the man curiously. The elder man stood and pondered the question for a bit before answering with finality. "S rank valued at around 520 million Ryo," the man spoke and laughed as both the blonde and pink cat's jaws dropped to the floor. Their weapon, Naruto-sama, Tanya's son, set the blade onto the counter and the genin pair marveled at the weapon. The blade took the shape of a dagger with a jit-shaped blade alongside a Q-shaped circular handguard that points out on the side of the longer blade. Additionally, the weapon has a black handle with a circular link at the end. "It looks amazing," Tanya Jiji, Naruto breathed as he gripped the blade in his hand. "Me and my son forged it, so of course it looks amazing," the elder man said as he forced his son to pose alongside himself. "What are you going to name it, Naruto-kun?" his pink-haired friend asked as Naruto slipped the blade into its sheath and started to fill out the registration document. "The inverted spear of heaven. I am immensely proud of every single one of you before me today. Throughout your tenure at the academy, I got to watch all of you grow into the splendid women and men that you've all become, and I sincerely look forward to watching you all grow into splendid shinobi of the leaf." Iruka spoke to the crowd of genin, some of which started to tear up. After he finished, he started to go through the team list, Naruto and Sakura ignoring the assignments, awaiting their names. "How did he pass? Did he finally get his chakra?" a student whispered as he pointed towards the blonde. "Nah. I heard Mizuki-sensei talk about how he failed the test." "Where is Mizuki-sensei?" "No clue." Naruto groaned and leaned left into his best friend's lap, the girl instinctually stroking his hair. "Why are our teams taking so long?" Naruto asked his best friend, who shrugged. "Probably because they're saving the best for last," she hypothesized, and the friends shared a laugh. Unexpectedly, the door of the room burst open and a panting Narumi walked through, taking a seat next to her brother and his best friend. "Sorry Iruka-sensei, Hokage-sama needed me for something before I came here," she explained and shot a small glance at her brother. Iruka nodded his head and continued going through the teams. "Hey little sister," Naruto called lazily from the pink cat's lap and his sister waved back. "Hey, Anaya-chan," Sakura-chan, the pink cat gave the strawberry blonde a wave before continuing to stroke the older blonde's hair. Team 7. Sasuke-chiha, Sakura Haruno. An audible groan from the pink cat interrupted Iruka. Sorry Iruka-sensei," she apologized. She didn't want to be on a team with the pompous Uchiha clan member. Sure, there was a time in which she almost fanned over him, but the more she observed him interact with others, the more he started to irk and annoy her. "It's alright Sakura, just refrain from doing so again. Now as I was saying, Sakura Haruno, Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki and Narumi Namikaze Uzumaki. Junin sensei being Kakashi Hatake 5-man squad. That was highly unusual though not unheard of." It's a jack of all trades style team, Sakura explained as two of her new teammates turned to her. What do you mean? Naruto asked, looking up to meet his best friend's eyes. Each team is suited to a different area of expertise. For example, Team 8 is a squad geared towards tracking Kiba's nose, Hinata's eyes, and Shinto's bugs, Sakura explained before Naruto raised his hand, still in the girl's lap. So how are we different? He asked and Narumi nodded her head in agreement. I have potential as a medic nin, which I'm sure Hokage-sama realized. Sasuke has potential in tracking, and it's no secret that Narumi has potential as a sensory ninja, which leaves you for frontal assault. Very good, Sakura-chan. I've yet to see a student realize the way teams are structured. You're correct, by the way. Team 7 is a team with talents poised toward several areas of expertise. Iruka commended and the pink cat blushed. Despite the explanation, Narumi had a small look of guilt on her face. You summoned me too, San. Narumi stood tall in front of her father as she awaited his explanation. I need a favor. His tone was cold and his expression was conflicted. Of course, San. What do you need? The strawberry blonde started to get anxious as she watched her father take a deep breath and sigh. As you may know, Naruto has achieved the rank of genin via field promotion by Iruka. He defeated a Chunin attempting to steal the scroll of seals. Narumi could barely believe what her father was telling her. She knew none of this. I heard he made genin, but I never saw a headband, she explained. He's been over at Sakura Haruno's place for most of the day, and once he arrives home he heads straight to his room. Is he alright? Her voice was filled with concern as tears started to well in her father's eyes. Narumi. What I'm about to disclose is an S-rank secret. It doesn't leave this room under any circumstances, he spoke and his daughter nodded, straightening her posture. Of course, Hokage-sama. He noticed the switch and knew she would take this information to the grave. When I sealed the Kyuubi into you, I used a seal that would ensure it'd have no chance of escape, even if you were to give birth yourself. This seal came at a cost, however, and that cost was your brother's chakra, Minato explained and watched as his daughter's face morphed into shock and sadness, and then anger. How could you? She screamed at her father as her own tears started to well up. It was the only thing I could think of. He let his head hang, too ashamed to even look at his daughter. The Naichin has been waiting on his chakra since he was a kid. He got teased and ostracized and he was so close to losing his dream. Narumi lectured her father on his son's hardships and Minato could no longer hold his tears back. Please, Narumi, he pleaded, and his daughter ceased her verbal lashing. What do you want from me, Hokage-sama? There was no warmth in her tone, only anger. I've assigned you to Naruto's team. Please protect him. He begged and Narumi shook her head. You said it yourself, and Naichin beat a Chunin and earned his title as a shinobi. I look out for him just as I would any teammate, but he is perfectly capable of defending himself. And with that, she turned and exited the tower. Knowing Kakashi, he's gonna take a while. Wanna get ice cream? Naruto asked his best friend and his sister, both of whom nodded. Aren't you gonna ask Sasuke? The younger blonde asked, to which they all looked at the brooding Sasuke, then back to each other. Nah, they said simultaneously and headed out to get their sweet treat. Once they returned they were met with an annoyed Sasuke and no sensei. Just like we left it, Naruto said to himself before retaking his place in his best friend's lap. Narumi ate a spoonful of her banana ice cream before looking at the blonde and pinkette duo and asking a question that had been on her mind since she walked in. Are you two ignored each other? The two turned the same shade as the pinkette's hair, nearly choking on their ice cream. And no. They both yelled in unison, causing the younger blonde to laugh and wave her hand. Sorry. It's just he's wearing your clothes and he's always in your lap, so I just thought, she trailed as the blonde and pinkette looked at each other before quickly turning away. The uncomfortable atmosphere loomed for a little longer before it was interrupted by another question. This time, from their breeding teammate. Where did you get this from? The Ravenet asked as he unsheathed the inverted spear of heaven. Naruto quickly stood, grabbed the smaller boy's wrist and twisted it, causing him to drop the blade into the blonde's hand. Don't worry about it. His spoke, tone as sharp as the blade he held within his hand. DSK. I'm an Uchiha and I demand to know. The boy managed to speak through the pain building in his wrist. The taller boy groaned and let the Uchiha go before responding. I bought it. Before the Ravenet could respond, a new voice garnered their attention. My first impression of you all is you are all annoying. Roof, 2 minutes, their sensei instructed before vanishing in a swirl of leaves. Team 7 collected their things and hastily followed their Jimnin sensei up to the roof. Alrighty team, how about we introduce ourselves? Get to know each other, Kakashi said with a smile. At least they thought it was a smile. How about you go first? Give us an example, Sakura asked, and their sensei nodded. Alright. My name is Kakashi. I like plenty of things and dislike plenty of things. My hobby isn't important and my dream for the future. Leave and go home. The man went through his introduction, which left the students shaking their heads and palming their faces. We didn't learn anything about you besides your name. Narumi voiced her disapproval with her teammates nodding in agreement. You and Naruto know me already though, he said with anathersmal. All we know is that you're a huge pervert, Naruto commented with his sister nodding in agreement. Yeah, ducktail you're next, the Cyclops sensei instructed as he pointed towards the Uchiha. My name is Sasuke Uchiha, I like strength, dislike weakness, and my hobbies are training to get stronger and winning. I will surpass a certain man and cement myself in the Uchiha legacy. The team collectively rolled their eyes, while Kakashi made a mental note to report Sasuke's current mental state to the Hokage. So dark and cool. Pinkie Pie is next. Kakashi spoke sarcastically before calling the next introduction. My name is Sakura Haruno, my likes include studying the ninja arts, churros, and other exotic snacks. My dislikes are arrogance, perverts, and the color brown. My hobbies are training and trying new snacks with Nato-chan. I aspire to become a kunoichi stronger than the likes of Tsunade-sama. She finished her introduction with a determined look in her eyes and an embarrassed Naruto. What's a churro? Actually, doesn't matter, blonde number 1 is next, Kakashi called, and the twins looked at each other and then Kakashi who pointed at Naruto. My name is Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki, I like churros, training, and legendary weapons. I dislike arrogant people, perverts, and, most of all, liars. My hobbies include reading about legendary weapons, trying new snacks with Sakura-chan, and training. If I had to say, my dream for right now is to find and wield the legendary Playful Cloud, which is currently somewhere around the Land of Fire. Naruto finished his introduction, which left his team intrigued about the legendary weapons mentioned. Very cool, for real this time. Blonde number 2 Kakashi pointed at the last member of the team and instructed her to introduce herself. My name is Narumi Namikaze Uzumaki. I like training with my mom, Raymond, and my family. I dislike perverts, icha, and bears. My hobbies include reading, training, and spending time with friends. My dream for the future is to become a ninja revered throughout the elemental nations. She finished her introduction with an excited fist pump, which Kakashi applauded before addressing his team once more. Nice to meet all of you, some more than most. Tomorrow you all will be taking a test that assesses if you are truly ready to become genin. The academy is a way to assess who's ready to take the true test, which means, should you fail, you will be sent back to repeat schooling. Any questions? Naruto raised his hand. No. Okay, great. Meet me at training ground 7 at around 8 AM, he turned to leave but stopped. Oh. Before I forget, I don't recommend eating, you might throw up, and with that, the man disappeared. I had a question, Naruto said with a small frown that was quickly erased via Sakura. It's okay, Nato-chan. Let's get churro-flavored ice cream. Are you coming with Narumi? The pin cat asked the shorter blonde, who nodded. Sure, but I have to ask, what's a churro? The day of the test came and Naruto, finally in his usual windbreaker and pants combo, was eager to pass the test. Once I do, it will cement my place as a Konoha shinobi, he thought as he entered the kitchen. Good morning, Anai-chan. Ready for the test? His twin sister asked. She was dressed in an apron and her pajama shorts as she prepared breakfast. I'm more than ready. His voice was filled with its usual determination. I'm glad to hear it. Their mother's voice caught the two off guard as she wrapped the two in a hug. Mom? The twins groaned, trying to get free from the redhead's grip. I'm so proud of you too. You're going to become shinobi. She squeezed them for a few more seconds before finally releasing them and letting them enjoy their light breakfast. I'm sorry, Naruto, I should have believed in you more, but that changes now. I know you'll be an excellent shinobi, Kushina thought as she watched her children head off for the training grounds. So what did you have for breakfast? Naruto asked the pinkette, his head in her lap per usual. Nothing too hefty, just some grilled fish, Greek yogurt, and some steamed vegetables. You? Narumi cooked some fish too. I had that, an omelette and a peanut butter bar, Naruto answered, and the two fell into a comfortable silence that was quickly interrupted by Sasuke. He told us not to eat breakfast. When you three are throwing up, it better not affect my chances at passing, the Uchiha lectured, but his teammates, rather than the guilt-ridden faces he thought they'd have after his speech, looked at him as if he were stupid. You actually listened to him? Narumi spoke, not believing someone would be that dumb. Of course I did. He recommended we not eat, and this is a recommendation from a guy who's regularly late to anything you invite him to, Naruto explained, barely being able to hold back laughter. He then tossed the boy a few peanut butter bars. Peanut butter? They're dense in carbs, you're gonna need the energy, he explained, and the Uchiha begrudgingly nodded, eating all 4 of them. Team 7 fell into a comfortable silence that remained uninterrupted up until their sensei arrived. Yo. Kakashi greeted his team. The blonde and pinkette were asleep, while Sasuke and Narumi took to light sparring to stretch their muscles. You're earlier than we thought you'd be, Narumi commended her sensei and shook her twin brother awake, which, in turn, awoke Sakura. Test time? Naruto asked as he rubbed the sleep out of his eyes. Best I'm, Kakashi confirmed and led the group into the dense forest that was training ground 7. So what's the test? Narumi asked her silver-haired sensei who procured 3 bells. You'll have an hour to get these bells using any means necessary. If you get one you pass and if you don't, then it's back to the academy for you, he explained. There's 4 of us, not to mention I'm an Uchiha, we could end up killing you, Sasuke explained, and the genin couldn't help but slightly agree. I may not look it, but I'm pretty strong, besides, if you don't come at me with the intent to kill, he trailed off. You will fail. He explained before starting the exam. Immediately, the 4 genin scattered into the tree line and hid their presence as best they could. Sasuke's in the tree behind me, slightly right. Narumi is directly to my right in that bush, and Sakura is in the bush to my left. No, where's Naruto? The silver-haired man knew he'd have trouble sensing Naruto due to his lack of chakra, but the genin couldn't hear him, smell him, nor could he see the boy. In the middle of his musings, he heard the sound of leather being unclamped and felt the unmistakable feeling of dread that came with something he only felt when out on missions. The risk of death. The senior shinobi quickly dove forward, narrowly avoiding a slash from Naruto's newly acquired dagger. His file didn't mention him wielding a weapon, especially one that unique, Kakashi thought as he faced his blonde opponent. Didn't your mom teach you not to play with sharp things? Kakashi jokingly asked, pulling out his copy of Icha Icha. The blonde only narrowed his eyes and dashed at his sensei, appearing in front of him in an instant. Freakily fast, Kakashi thought as he leaned back to avoid a horizontal slash from Naruto. The blonde dropped the short sword and caught it in his right hand, stabbing it at the genin's midsection. The man quickly leapt back to avoid the potentially life-ending injury before readjusting himself. You're gonna have to try harder than that if you want these bells. The blonde didn't respond, instead opting to toss his sword up, switch stances, and throw a hook kick which launched the blade at a near incomparable speed. The genin performed a substitution to avoid the blade, but as soon as he appeared Naruto was back on him, dagger in hand. He must have grabbed it while I was mid-substitution. Things are getting serious now. The silver-haired man quickly set his book down and actively engaged the blonde. Naruto threw a rear leg round kick to the genin's midsection, which the man low blocked with his left arm, responding with a straight punch to Naruto's sternum. The blonde used the blade to block the punch, using his free hand to throw a hook to Kakashi's jaw which landed clean. Lesson 1, Taijutsu, Kakashi instructed as he dashed at the blonde, throwing a furious punch at his skull. Naruto outside blocked with his left and sent his blade barreling into Kakashi's throat, the man narrowly dodging as he leaned his head back. Before the genin could retract his punch, Naruto grabbed his wrist and pulled the man in closer, blade poised at the man's chest. Flashing a quick hand sign, Kakashi managed to substitute and gain distance from the blonde. Judging by your reaction I guess I passed. His voice was cold yet confident, gaze amused yet determined. I can't afford to play around with this one. One slip up and he can very well kill me. The senior shinobi narrowed his eyes and fell into a stance. Naruto rushed in, dipping down low to grab a handful of dirt which he flung into Kakashi's eye, briefly blinding the man. The blonde then jumped up and sent a kick into the man's face, used it as a stepping stool, and turned 180, before launching a furious back kick with his other leg that sent Kakashi flying. Naruto wasted no time, using his inverted spear of heaven to cut into the trees surrounding the genin, leaving just enough that they wouldn't topple over. The silver-haired man righted himself and rushed the blonde, sending a flurry of kunai and shuriken that Naruto blocked using his blade. Preoccupied with the thrown weapons, Naruto failed to notice the brutal knee Kakashi sent into his jaw, which sent the blonde staggering back, ears ringing and brief flashes of white invading his vision. Genin are in an entirely different league. Naruto thought excitedly as Kakashi forced him onto the defensive. He barely managed to check the leg kick the genin threw and overshot the high block by mere centimeters, allowing Kakashi to slam a fist into the top of the boy's skull, sending him crumpling into the ground. Not one to take chances, Kakashi sent the boy rolling back via a kick between the ribs. Emerging from her bush, Sakura collected her battered and beaten best friend and retreated. Is everything set up? The pincat asked the blonde who nodded and pointed to the ring of nearly chopped down trees. The wire to pull everything is in that berry bush about 7 feet away. The blonde then pointed to the respective bush, a slight gleam resting within it. Alright, Narumi, are you sure you can make that many shadow clones? The jutsu is pretty taxing. The strawberry blonde nodded confidently with the pincat turning towards the final piece of the plan. I already understand my role. Let's hurry and get these bells. Sasuke cracked his knuckles as he readied himself. He was on assault alongside Narumi. Then let's move. I wonder what my cute little genin are up to, Kakashi thought, pulling out his favorite book. Before he could start to read, however, a flurry of blonde shadow clones charged at him, all of which he dispatched easily. If that was the plan, then get ready to turn in those headbands, Kakashi taunted, failing to notice the buildup of smoke from the clones. Sasuke. A voice yelled, and before he could react, a searingly sharp pain was sent through both of his feet. Looking down, he saw two kunai nailing his feet into place, Uchiha staring him down. "Narumi." The ravenet yelled to the blonde girl, who nodded and yanked on the ninja wire, bringing the pre-cut trees down on Kakashi. "Back to you, Sasuke." The strawberry blonde yelled. The Uchiha went through a string of hand signs before calling out his jutsu. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. The fireball barreled towards the, now very, concerned Junin, who frantically went through his own string of hand signs. Water style. Water dragon jutsu. The dragon rushed towards the fireball, but before it could extinguish the fireball, a blonde blur appeared in the dragon's path. With a swing of his blade, Naruto cut the jutsu in half, and right before his teammate's fireball was to hit him, Sakura substituted the blonde with a rock. Shit was Kakashi's only thought as the fireball consumed him and his wooden prison. Yaupus. Kakashi flashed a thumbs up to his newly established genin team and smiled fondly as they all celebrated, even Sasuke had a small smile. "We're the best." Naruto exclaimed as he wrapped his best friend in an embrace she quickly returned. "I have to commend you all. Using Naruto's superior physical strength to force me to focus on him and not the trees he was cutting down was ingenious. And Sakura, I must say, it takes real ingenuity, chakra control, and sheer guts to substitute your teammate away from a jutsu you threw him into. You've real promise as this team's leader. Sasuke and Narumi, you've displayed excellent ninjutsu talent and chakra reserves. You two allowed the latter half of the plan to go off without a hitch. And finally, Naruto. Your dexterity kept me preoccupied and completely ignorant of the plan, not to mention having the balls to run right in front of a fire jutsu just so you could cut my own jutsu in half. This team has the potential to become greater than any shinobi that preceded you. Thank you, Kakashi-sensei." The newly formed Team 7 saluted their sensei. "On your left, Nato-chan," the pincat informed in a hushed whisper. The blonde in question shot his head to the left and spotted their target. With a nod, Naruto slipped into the shadows, allowing his mark to saunter right by him. Just a little more, the blonde thought to himself. Once his mark was comfortably in front of him, the boy made his move. His mark noticed him, however, and dashed out of the blonde's grasp. Shit, he could hear the resident Uchiha yell from his perch as the cat they were tasked with catching slipped from their grip. The feline turned to the male blonde, ready to taunt the genin, but stopped dead upon laying eyes on its pursuer. "Come here." The boy's voice was bone-chillingly cold as he stared down the trembling feline. The cat in question took shaky steps toward the blonde, stopping in front of him. "No way," Narumi breathed as she watched her brother pick the cat up and walk towards them. "Are you some sort of cat whisperer, Nato-chan?" His best friend joked, the blonde in question laughing sheepishly. "Good job, Team 7, the Hokage commended the team as he scanned the mission report. "Thank you, Hokage-sama," the pincat said with a nod, turning her head to her blonde best friend. The blonde in question refused to meet his father's eyes, instead, opting to survey the office. Says here Naruto managed to intimidate the cat into stopping dead in its tracks. The Hokage shot a glance at his son, who refused to meet it, then to his daughter, who openly glared at him. He did manage to beat Itachi's record, and he had the Sharingan. Kakashi mused to himself as he buried his nose into his book. The comment got a rise out of the team Uchiha, who shot the blonde a burning glare. He beat Itachi's record. I should have been the one to beat it. It should be me holding that record. The ravenet stirred in his anger as he awaited the end of the debrief. "Alright, my cute little genin, I'll see you all tomorrow for your next mission." The genin flashed a hand sign, ready to shunshin away, but a blurringly fast hand interrupted him. "I hope it's not another deer rank." He narrowed his eyes at his sensei and tightened his grip, ensuring the man wouldn't wriggle his way out of the question. He's gotten faster. It's only been a few weeks since the test, but he's improved dramatically. Kakashi shook away his thoughts and gave his genin an eye smile. "You bet it is." The collective groan from Team 7 rang out. "We're plenty capable of handling a C rank. We're diverse a team enough that we can tackle any enemy and their skillset," the taller blonde explained, and his sensei raised an eyebrow in response. "And what exactly would these skills be?" The blonde scratched his cheek before turning to his best friend. The pincat nodded and answered the silver-haired man's question. "Sasuke has potential as a skill tracker, Narumi as a sensor, Naruto as a frontal assault ninja, and myself as a healer," she explained, and the two senior ninja present were almost impressed. Almost. The two shared a look before turning back to Sakura. 9 tenths points. The Genin smiled as he watched a confused look wash over his genin. 9 tenths. The pincat ran over her assertion but recognized no flaw in it. "Our favorite blondie Naruto has amazing potential on the front line, yes. But there's an area of expertise that he'd be perfect for," Kakashi said cryptically. "You aren't going to tell us, are you?" The taller blonde asked his sensei, who only offered an eye smile. "Wait, and Aichin is your favorite." Narumi spoke for the first time. "He's unpredictable and has brief moments of stupidity. The rest of you are too level-headed and rational. Kakashi explained, the taller blonde blushing at the sudden attention. Don't change the subject, sensei, we're skilled enough for a C rank. His voice gained a cold edge as his grip tightened. Kakashi had forgotten the boy was even holding him. Okage-sama. Kakashi turned the question to the senior ninja, and for the first time since they arrived, Naruto had met his father's eyes. The four of them can handle a bandit just fine, hell even low-level ninja. The issue lies with Naruto. Can he handle himself outside the village? Maybe his time as a pretend ninja should end now that the rest of his team is ready for higher ranked missions. Minato mulled over the issue in his mind. Kakashi narrowed his eyes and turned to his team. Everyone go home. I need to have a word with Hokage-sama. The senior ninja instructed, the tone of his voice ensuring his subordinates would listen. The four genin headed out. Is there something wrong, Kakashi? Your team's dismissed until the next assignment. The blonde Hokage turned toward his paperwork, mind torn over whether or not he should allow his son to continue his tenure as a ninja. Naruto is perfectly capable of defending himself. The Jinnin's voice was firm as he narrowed his single visible eye at his former sensei. Pardon? You're wondering whether or not to allow us a C rank due to Naruto's condition. Those missions are incredibly dangerous for someone without chakra. One slip up and he could be bisected. Minato spoke, paperwork abandoned. Chakra or no chakra, slipping up on the field always runs the risk of death. I don't know how strong or weak you think your son is, Hokage-sama, but I've seen this kid cut trees down with a single stroke and punch at speeds that the Sharingan would have trouble keeping track of, and to top it all off he's getting stronger each day. The Hokage's eyes widened as he listened to the silver-haired man's assessment of his son. As physically strong as he may be, there's still the issue of jutsu. Once an enemy throws a fireball or a water dragon at him, then what? His voice was firm as he studied Kakashi, awaiting an answer. Funny you should mention water dragons. Have you heard of the inverted spear of heaven? Can't say I have. But what does a spear have to do with my son? His firm voice gained an edge of curiosity as he studied the Chunin. Knowing you, you probably skipped right over it. Check the registered weapons ledger. About 5 or so weeks back the Chunin instructed his former sensei, who complied and grabbed the weapons folder labeled C. Inverted spear of heaven, right? The blonde asked as he thumbed through the I section. Wrong folder. How so? S rank, Hokage-sama, not C rank. The blonde's eyes widened slightly before grabbing the aforementioned folder. Are you sure? I pay special attention to any new special weapons ranked higher than C. Maybe this one managed to slip by. Its user tends to do the same thing. The Hokage thumbed through the I section of the folder before landing on a specific page, eyes widening. This can't be real. I thought the same thing, Hokage-sama. Where did he? How did he? After the true genin test, I asked him about the blade as it hadn't been on his file, and he told me he'd gotten it custom made before the test. When I asked about its special property, he told me it was specially made just for him with some quote-unquote super special seal that leveled the playing field. Kakashi explained, and it seemed like everything clicked in the blonde's head. Seal engraved blades usually earn a rank C through S and a Ryo value before they're sent to me and are officially registered. You went through the most recent copy of the Special Tools Ledger published only a week or so ago and found it there. Bingo. What does this have to do with my son combating against jutsu? His tone lost the edge it once had as he was genuinely curious as to how his son would even the playing field. The seal engraved into his blade is chakra nullification. Now normally that wouldn't be anything special, but Naruto doesn't use it to pacify his enemies with a cut. It hit Minato like a ton of bricks. He uses it to cut through jutsu. Your son is physically stronger and faster than most if not all Chunin, low Chunin given a week or two. With that blade, he can force enemies to fight on his turf, and if they aren't at least mid Chunin, then well, you know what happens. Disappointment washed over the blonde's face. Not aimed toward his son but rather at himself due to his ignorance of his son's abilities. I've made my decision on the C rank, Kakashi. We're going on a C rank. Kakashi announced to his excited team of genin. About damn time. The taller blonde exclaimed as his team nodded in agreement. Team 7 made their way to the Hokage Tower, entered the Hokage's office, and awaited further instruction. Ah, Team Kakashi. Here for your C rank, correct? The Hokage asked with a smile as he tossed Kakashi the scroll containing the mission details, each member of the team signing it. Yes, Hokage-sama. The genin exclaimed uniformly. The eldest blonde made a motion with his hand, and a blur left the room. The other three are to remain guard, right? Narumi asked, and the Hokage couldn't help but smile. Your chakra sensing is getting better. You three, stop slacking. His voice grew lower as he addressed his lazy subordinates who promptly fixed their poor attempts to hide their chakra. You're too off, little sister. It was Kakashi's turn to smile as he looked at the older of the twins. What do you mean, an Aichin? Excluding the one that left, there are 3 Anbu in the room. One behind the bookshelf, one behind the couch, and one right beside the Hokage's desk. Narumi pointed out the 3 formerly slacking ninjas and Naruto nodded before pointing out 2 more. One in the rafters and one right behind Sasuke. The 2 hidden ninjas' eyes widened slightly. They knew they were masking their chakra completely. "He's right, Mimi-chan," a soft feminine voice informed Team 7 who turned to put a face to the voice. "Hi mom." Narumi called as she hugged her mother. Naruto greeted the Redeed with a wave and a warm smile. "I'm glad he's not cold to me like he is Minato. He must be blaming Minato solely for what happened. I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel guilty." Fornit she shook the thoughts out of her head and looked down towards her blonde daughter. "Mind explaining how you picked out my elite guard?" Minato asked. He knew his son couldn't sense chakra and even if he did have it, his daughter could only pick out 3 and she was a natural-born sensor. The 3 Narumi picked out all smelled slightly of alcohol. That might be why they were slacking. The one behind Sasuke smells exactly like lighter fluid, they must have refilled it recently. Finally, the one in the rafters shifted their weight a little and I heard the wood creak. The people present in the office were at a loss for words, with no one speaking until Kushina broke the silence. "That's amazing, Naru-chan. To think, both of my kids are sensors." Mock tears welled up in the Redeed's eyes as she wrapped her children in a hug. "Moom." The twins groaned as they attempted to pry themselves from their mother, finding little success. "I thought when I paid for this mission I'd get actual ninjas, not brats," a gray-haired man mumbled as he assessed the team in front of him. "You listen here, my children are perfectly capable of protecting you, and call them brats again it'll kill you long before those bandits you're so afraid of do." Kushina spoke as she released a massive wave of chakra, choking the man alongside 3 of the genin. Naruto was completely unbothered. Like Kushina-sama said, these 4 are the cream of the crop when it comes to genin. Not to mention you'll have an experienced genin accompanying you as well. You've nothing to worry about. Kakashi said in an effort to ease the man's fears. "DCH, better not or I want my money back," the elder man grumbled. The silver-haired genin waved a contract into the man's face, and I smiled. "You signed the contract." He then handed the scroll to the Hokage before turning to his team. "I assume you were all taught how to pack for a 4-week mission." The silver-haired man smiled when his team nodded. "Yes, sensei." "Alrighty then, we leave in 3 hours. Regroup at the village gates." "Naruto, right." The blonde in question turned to meet the voice that belonged to a genin slightly older than him, brown hair and buns and a pink sleeveless kippao-style shirt across her body. "Yep. And you are?" He didn't recognize the girl from his academy days and from the looks of it, she only knew him via someone else. She must be a part of a team that was already in circulation, Naruto theorized as he waited for the girl to speak. "I'm Tenten." Guy-sensei mentioned something about Kakashi-sensei mentioning a student interested in weapons. "I never knew there was another aspiring weapons master in the village." The blonde could see the brunette's eyes start to sparkle and he offered a smile. "Yeah. I can't really use chakra, so I'm closing the gaps with weapons. I hope to find and wield playful cloud." The brunette gained a wide smile on her face as she sat next to the blonde, leaning in to get a better view of the book he was reading. "I've been dreaming about that staff lately. You know, some people say that it's hard enough to shatter mountains with one swing." She was practically bouncing in her seat as she turned through some pages. "First to find it keeps it." Naruto challenged with a smile. "You're on." The brunette answered the challenge with a giggle as she pointed to the next page. "Slaughter Demon." Naruto read the name aloud and was confused. When he read the book he hadn't seen the weapon. According to the book, it's a dagger imbued with the chakra of both Madara Uchiha and Hashirama Senju as a symbol of the alliance of the clans under the Hidden Leaf. It's currently in possession of the Hokage. The duo looked at each other with Naruto joining in on Tenten's excited jumping. "I can't believe there's a weapon of that caliber in our own village." Naruto exclaimed as he imagined himself wielding a blade empowered by the 2 strongest ninjas of all time. "The thought of wielding this alone kinda makes me want to become Hokage," Tenten said as she marveled at the blade. The blade, a combat-style knife, has a black fur guard and a brown handle. It also has a wide-edged blade with 2 holes and bandages at its base. "All that paperwork?" Naruto asked as he smiled at the girl. "Yeah, you're right," she returned the smile before the 2 burst out laughing. "It was nice meeting you, Tenten. Let's do this again sometime," Naruto offered as he stood from his chair, adjusting his windbreaker. "Absolutely, but wait." The brunette stopped the blonde as she placed the book back onto the nearby shelf and handed him a paper seal. "What's this for?" the taller boy asked as he studied the seal. "It's a storage seal that functions more as a bottomless well-like seal. We got them made for Lee due to his chakra issues, and I figured you could use them as well." The blonde smiled and bowed in appreciation, applying the seal onto the inside of his windbreaker and stowing his sword into it. "I'll try and repay you after my mission." The blonde turned and started to jog out of the library and towards the gates of the village. "I might have a thing for guys with long hair," Tenten mused to herself. Bonus points for being a weapons fanatic. With a blush, the brunette turned and picked out a random book. Unable to read with her mind on the blonde. "Are we ready, team?" "Yes, sensei." "Then let's move." Team 7 had been walking for around 15 minutes before the silence was broken by Naruto. "Sakura-chan, if being a ninja doesn't work out, should we open a churro shop?" The blonde asked his best friend, who gained a look of thinking. It'd be nice to spread the wonders of the churro throughout the elemental nations. She surmised as the blonde nodded his head in agreement. "What's a churro?" The bridge builder asked the two, genuinely curious. The duo looked at the man in shock, slapping their hands on the side of their faces. "I've been meaning to ask that again," the shorter blonde said to her brother and his best friend. The two now audibly gasped as they shook their heads in disappointment. "It is only the greatest fried treat to ever grace the world," the older blonde spoke as his best friend nodded in agreement. "Does it taste good?" Sasuke asked. Team 7 turned towards the boy, faces ripe with confusion. "I'm surprised you're interested in eating anything besides darkness and pain," the older blonde commented before being lightly tapped on the back of the head by his best friend. "They taste amazing. You'll have to try them sometime," the pink cat advised with the Uchiha nodding. "Once we get to my house and wave, maybe you could cook us a baki, Naruto?" The bridge builder asked, but the boy didn't respond. His eyes were intently narrowed at a puddle on the ground. "You've realized it too, haven't you, Anai-chan?" The shorter blonde asked her brother, who narrowed his eyes. Sakura turned towards the puddle and focused, eventually coming to the same realization the twins had. It hadn't rained in weeks. So why was there a puddle in the middle of the ground? As soon as she processed the realization, a chain burst from the puddle, wrapping Kakashi up before shredding him to pieces. Team 7 felt their hearts drop as the severity of their situation set in. Their sensei had just been killed. "Wait, no, I can still smell the coconut body wash he uses." He substituted last minute and placed a transformation on the log. The color came back to the older blonde's face as he stuck his hand into his jacket and pulled out the inverted spear of heaven. "Looks like this team knows what they're doing, Agumzu." The man turned to his brother, who licked his lips ravenously. "I like girls who go down with some a little kicking and screaming." His eyes trailed up and down the pink cat's body, eyes stripping her out of her heavy pale pink jacket, gray shirt, and black shorts. "Ain't it the truth?" Maizu agreed as he stared down Naruto. Eyes stripping her of her orange bomber, mesh undershirt, and black pants. The two girls zipped their jackets, with Sakura adopting a protective stance in front of Tazuna, eyes narrowed and kunai at the ready. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the brothers and launched himself at the two, Sasuke right behind him. The brothers made a fast break at Naruto, Maizu swinging a wide-arsing right hook that Naruto ducked under, responding with a swift wave of his blade. Which cut the Chunin's arm clean off. "Ah. He fucking cut my arm off, GLZ, you fuck." The man started to get lightheaded as he detached his gauntlet and took cover behind his brother, said brother being pushed back by the Uchiha. Gumzu grit his teeth and threw a rear leg front kick that Sasuke narrowly avoided. The Chunin followed up with a left straight toward the boy's chest, which would have hit. Had Naruto not severed the man's arm seconds earlier. The gauntlet dropped to the floor, bloodied stump staining the grass as its wielders tried to run. Thinking quickly, Naruto ripped the chain off the gauntlets and stuck it to the end of his sword, swinging it and launching it at blinding speeds at Gumzu, impaling his leg. Sasuke flashed through a series of hand seals and sent a small fireball barreling toward the remaining Maizu, catching him in the back and dropping him to the ground. "Yo. Kakashi-sensei?" the pink cat questioned. Her eyes narrowed as she ran through the usual tells of Kakashi's behavior. "This could very well be a clone they sent to lower our guard," she hypothesized as she turned her head to Narumi, who nodded. "I've scanned for significant chakra signatures 50 meters in every direction. We shouldn't have any more surprises. As for our sensei, that's him. I recognize his signature." Her words relaxed the three genin aside from Naruto, who already knew of his survival. "Great job, team. Sakura, you protected the client and made sure to drive him as far away from the battle while still being close enough to provide support if needed, not to mention being wary of potential imposters. Narumi, you scanned the perimeter for potential intervention on the side of the demon brothers while readying shuriken for supporting fire. And finally, Naruto and Sasuke, you two immediately understood what needed to be done, incapacitating the enemy ninja while also rendering them unfit for combat. Extra style points to Naruto for sticking a chain on his sword and launching it through one of their legs." The silver-haired man commended his team. "Thank you, sensei." They exclaimed before Naruto detached the chain from his blade before sealing it away. Before he could discard the chain, however, Kakashi halted him. "Can I take a look at that chain for a second, Naruto?" The blonde nodded and handed over the bloody chain to his sensei. "What's wrong with it?" the shorter blonde asked as she leaned on her brother's shoulder, studying the chain. "Nothing, Narumi. In fact, this chain is one of legends." The revelation garnered the attention of all present, save for two unconscious Chunin, as they studied the normal-looking chain. "It looks like a regular chain to me," Tazuna said, the genin agreeing with him. "Trust me, it's no regular chain. Here, let me show you." Kakashi grabbed one end of the chain and created a shadow clone to hold the other. The shadow clone then walked backward, the chain straightening out before reaching its full length. "That's it?" Naruto asked and Kakashi shook his head. The shadow clone began to forcefully pull backward and in front of their very eyes, the chain increased in length from the side of the original Kakashi. "This, my cute little genin, is the chain of 8,000 miles. It was used by our Shadame to reign in the Three Tails and gifted to a newly emerged Kurigakure. If I had to guess, these two stole it from the Mizukage during the ongoing civil war." The genin handed the chain back to the boy who viewed the string of metal in an entirely new light. "How does it work?" He needed to know how to use the newest addition to his arsenal to its full potential. "It's an ordinary chain up until it reaches its presumed max length. Once that happens, a seal created by our Shadame activates and new, constantly increasing, lengths of chains are created from sealed chakra. Once it's deactivated, the chakra is absorbed back into the seal until it's needed again. Depending on how much chakra is fed into the seal, it can theoretically have infinite length." Sasuke looked upon the blonde in envy, upset that a legendary piece of weaponry had slipped from his grasp and into the hands of the blonde. The party bound the two chunin and continued heading toward their destination, none the wiser of their tale. Ugh, a voice grumbled and the traveling party turned towards it. "Looks like one of our sleeping beauties has arisen." The silver-haired ninja smiled as he poked the chunin, setting them down against a tree near a large lake. The pair of blondes stalked toward the fellow twins and bent down. Drawing his blade, Naruto grabbed Mzu's hair, using the grip to force the man's throat close to his weapon. Narumi mimicked his actions using her kunai before Sakura began her questioning. "You're here to assassinate our client, that much is clear, but what isn't is who hired you and why they want Tazuna dead. Start talking." The pincat glared at the chunin as the twins tightened their grips. "We ain't telling you shit, slut." Mzu spat, Mizu following up after. "Damn straight, how about you be a good little whore and bounce on our die?" A sharp knee to his nose, courtesy of Narumi, shut him up. "Alright, look. Right now you two are missing your dominant arms and have two of the Leaf's strongest genin holding weapons to your throats, ready to collect a fat bonus. If I were you, I'd get to talking." As if to emphasize her point, the twins dug the edge of their blades into the chunin's throats, drawing a thin line of blood. "You fuckers are too green to kill, much less properly interrogate." Mzu spat and in response. Naruto sliced off a piece of his ear. "Motherfucker." The chunin moved his dominant arm to press to his ear, only to remember it was gone. "Something tells me you don't like getting cut up." The pincat crouched in front of her captive, eyes cold and dull. Grabbing her best friend's sword, she pulled down the chunin's upper lip and cut into it, causing the man to convulse violently as he screamed. She's physically weaker than her teammates, but her knowledge of shinobi tactics, even torture, as well as the human body is second to none. Kakashi, Tazuna, and Sasuke watched as the three took to interrogating the men. "You bitch." Mzu screamed at the pincat. The aspiring medical ninja turned toward her fellow kunoichi and pointed to Mizu. With a nod, Narumi poised her blade to slice open the chunin's ear. "No, please stop, I'll tell you everything." Mizu screamed as he shut his eyes. The pincat smiled, returning her best friend's blade and kneeling beside her captive. "I was right, Mzu can take torture no problem, but Mizu is only used to small cuts from skirmishes." Sakura summarized. "We work for Gatm." The twins and Sasuke looked at each other confusedly, but the remaining two ninja narrowed their eyes. "The shipping mogul. Why would someone as affluent as Gatm want a bridge builder dead?" "That's the guy. I dunno if the old man told you, but his bridge would connect Wave to Fire Country, meaning he wouldn't have control over the imports and exports of that village. Gatm hired a bunch of ninjas to come stop that from happening." Mizu explained. Kakashi narrowed his eye before turning to Tazuna. "The demon brothers being present alone bumps this mission up to a B rank. Now I've let it slide since my team showed themselves capable of defeating low-level chunin, but depending on what other ninja Gatm sent to assassinate you, it can easily be bumped to an A rank. You've endangered my genin and per protocol were to return to the Leaf and void the mission." The genin explained, but his team disagreed. "We want to continue the mission." It was Sasuke. Kakashi had almost forgotten the boy was even there with how silent he had been. "You aren't ready." Kakashi started but was cut off. "We took down and interrogated two chunin without a scratch. Whoever this Gatm guy throws at us won't stand a chance." It was Naruto's turn to speak as he advocated for the continuation of the now B rank mission. "I agree with Anaichan." "I agree with Nato-chan." The two kunoichi spoke almost at the same time. Kakashi considered the request before turning to the gray-haired man. "Once this bridge is finished you will pay the remaining cost of this B rank." The elder man nodded, sweat pouring down his face. "That's too bad. The old man won't have a chance to finish that bridge or pay you back." The new voice sent a chill down everyone's back as both Kakashi and Naruto widened their eyes. "Get down." the taller blonde yelled, tackling his sister, while Sakura dragged Tazuna to the ground, Kakashi and Sasuke already down. Not even a second after their movement, a large sword flew through the air, cutting the demon brothers' heads clean off. Holy shit. The elder man felt bile rise from his stomach into his throat as he watched the heads of the two men roll freely, eyes wide open. Kakashi Haddock. Never would have thought I'd be fighting such a legendary ninja, the man said, retrieving his bloodied sword. Naruto, Sakura, Narumi, Sasuke. This is now an S-rank mission, under no circumstances are any of you two to engage this man in combat. Grab Tazuna and run, the silver-haired man instructed his subordinates, who firmly shook their heads. Even if we were to follow your orders, moving with a civilian would slow us down. With your attention split, he'd manage to cut us down before we could make it a mile, Sakura shakily said to her sensei, who could only grimace. She was right. Quite the good head on her shoulders won't be enough to survive this mission through, however. You'd be surprised, Kakashi spat, drawing a pair of kunai. Let's hope you're right. For their sake, the taller man grabbed his massive sword and launched himself at Kakashi, swinging it right down his center line. The silver-haired man stepped to his right, avoiding the blade entirely and sending a lead leg round kick to the swordsman's temple, which landed flush. Following up, Kakashi switched stances and threw a rear leg round which landed flush in between the swordsman's ribs. Coughing a bit, the black-haired man used his left arm to block the incoming right hook from Kakashi before slamming his sword down to block the sneaky leg kick the Jonin had followed up with. Seizing the opportunity, the black-haired man used his newly freed hands to grab the side of Kakashi's face and slam the top of his head into the Jonin's nose, breaking it. Meanwhile, his students couldn't help but shake as a single thought overwhelmed their minds. This is where they were going to die. Snap out of it, the command came from their resident sword-wielding blonde, who seemed less affected than his teammates. That Zabuza, an S-ranked missing nin whose Anbu level at least Sakura was trembling as she maintained a defensive posture in front of Tazuna. Naruto frowned, his best friend had reverted to the scared girl she once was. Kakashi-sensei was Anbu prior to being a sensei, with us fighting beside him, this Zabuza loser has no chance. Naruto exclaimed as he wrapped his best friend in an embrace. Narumi, who was going through her own mental breakdown, stabbed a kunai into her upper thigh, which snapped her out of her fear, with Sasuke doing the same to his hand. Anaichin is right, we're Team 7. We don't lose to fear, and we sure as hell don't lose to swordsmen who wear cow print arm warmers. Narumi exclaimed, her voice raising towards the end. Sakura, you come up with good plans, how do we help our sensei? The twins nodded in agreement with Sasuke, each of their eyes filled with determination alongside something else. The need to utterly crush Zabuza Mamachi. Grin washing over her face, Sakura looked at her teammates before pulling out some ninja wire. So here's what we're gonna do. Kakashi was on the back foot, attention split between his adversary, his team, and his client, which caused his performance to tank significantly. Eyes up here, Kakashi. Zabuza roared as he sent a brutal teep to Kakashi's chest, sending him rolling backward. Before the man could catch himself, Zabuza slammed the handle of his blade into the man's sternum, winding him. This is bad, I can't focus on the fight while worrying about the livelihood of my team, the Jonin coughed up light blood and phlegm as he rose to his feet. How about he handle those brats so you don't have to worry about them so much? Zabuza laughed as he flew through hand signs. Team 7 look alive. Kakashi commanded as he readied himself for what was to come. Ninja art. Hidden mist jutsu. The missing nin called before a thick mist set in around the battlefield. This is bad, Narumi and Naruto can get by just fine, but the other three. Kakashi trailed off as he glanced at his team. Liver, lungs, skull, heart, carotid. So many ways to kill the lot of you. Sakura, Naruto, and Sasuke formed a perimeter around Tazuna as Narumi scanned the battlefield for his chakra, unable to pinpoint it. The mist is interfering with my ability to sense his chakra. Narumi exclaimed. That's because the mist is my chakra. Weaving the mist with my chakra allows me to control its density, so to your underdeveloped sensing, I'm everywhere. Zabuza explained. The older blonde tightened his grip on his blade as he focused his senses. His little trick won't work on me, he has Kakashi's blood on him, meaning the moment he makes a move on us, I'll be able to smell him coming towards us and attack. The blonde theorized as he shut his eyes and focused on his sense of smell. Closing your eyes during a battle. Are you insane or just a really stupid kid? Zabuza questioned but received no response. Shaking his head, the man raised his massive blade and sent a diagonal slash toward the taller blonde, who intercepted the blade with his own. Widening his eyes slightly, Zabuza attempted to retract his blade but found that he couldn't. Looking towards it, he found that Naruto had the blade in a vice grip with his free hand left hand. Yanking hard, Naruto pulled the taller man in and sent the handle of his blade into the man's jaw at a blinding speed, dislocating it. He's right in front of me. Naruto called out, causing the missing nin to pry his blade free and jump as far back as he could, narrowly escaping a fireball. Kid's a monster and I don't sense a drop of chakra in him. What the hell's going on in the hidden leaf? Zabuza thought to himself, relocating his jaw. Flowing through a string of hand seals, Zabuza called out his next jutsu. Water style. Water clone jutsu. 4 clones emerged from the ground and stalked toward the group of genin. Naruto, can you cut through the mist? Sasuke asked. The blonde shrugged, readied his blade, and swung it through the mist. Although it did not fully dissipate, the mist thinned significantly, allowing the team of genin and their client to finally view the battlefield. And what they saw was 4 Zabuzas rushing towards them. Before Kakashi could intervene, a knee to his stomach dropped him to the ground. Your fight is with me, the swordsman spat, raising his blade to cleave the genin in two. The silver-haired man used his already low position to send a sweep that knocked Zabuza off balance. Following up immediately, Kakashi jumped from the ground and sent a flying knee into the man's face, sending him reeling back. Meanwhile, the genin managed to edge out a win over the clones. Naruto having an easier time as even one snick from his inverted spear of heaven caused the clone to dispel immediately. Back with Kakashi, the silver-haired genin forced the missing nin onto the back foot, throwing a lead right hook that caught the man clean in the temple, followed up by a lead leg round that hit Zabuza so hard that his head snapped to the right. Kakashi kept the momentum from the lead leg round and used it to power a spinning hook that found its mark right between the black-haired man's ribs. Kakashi rushed in, throwing a double jab that Zabuza ducked under, slamming Kakashi with a double leg. The missing nin didn't mount the genin as one would normally do and instead grabbed his adversary by the collar, tossing him into the nearby lake, Zabuza himself quickly following after. Water style. Water prison jutsu. The missing nin called before a bubble of water closed around Kakashi, imprisoning him as well as drowning him. Sensei. Naruto shouted as Zabuza grinned. Flashing a hand seal, the missing nin created 8 clones which rushed at the genin. Naruto dashed to 2 of them, using his left hand to outside block a hook before responding with a blade through the chest of one of the clones. The other clone shot a rear leg kick that Naruto pushed out of the way before shoving his blade through the clone's throat. Narumi took on the next 2, flying through hand seals. She slammed an open palm into one of the clones. Wind style. Vacuum palm. The shorter blonde called before a vacuum of air tore through the chest of the clone. Too preoccupied with the first, she was too slow to dodge the kunai coming straight at her throat. Divergent fist. The initial impact sent the clone flying before the second one tore a massive hole through the clone's chest. Thank you. Aniich and her brother gave a nod in response before turning toward their remaining 2 teammates. Sakura sent a skipping sidekick into the chest of one clone before quickly slamming her foot down, pivoting on said foot and sending a brutal spinning back kick into the second clone, dispelling both of them. Sasuke sloppily copied a move he'd seen Naruto use during the true genin test and threw a spinning hook that launched his kunai at an incredible speed, dispelling the first clone. Turning on a dime, the Uchiha flew through the jutsu he had practiced thousands of times, sending a fireball that consumed the second clone. With all 8 clones dispelled, the genin looked at each other and disappeared into the surrounding shrubbery. Abandoning your sensei to die. And I thought the hidden mist was bad. Zabuza barked as he focused his senses. The blinded is up in the tree line, Pinky isn't too far from her, and the raven is directly under the 12th fucks the last one. Zabuza grit his teeth as he realized he couldn't for the life of him sense the blonde boy. Up in the tree line, Sakura signaled to her teammates a simple instruction. Plan A. As Zabuza scanned for the blonde, he expertly dodged a flurry of shuriken thrown at him courtesy of Sasuke. Shuriken. That was your master plan. Don't make me laugh. The missing nin roared, maintaining the water prison. Sasuke smirked at the man and flashed a hand seal, detonating the small paper bombs attached to the throwing stars. Zabuza stayed still as he could tell they lacked enough power to do any real damage to him, though it did temporarily obscure his vision. If one of the brats makes a move, I'll sense it long before it hits me, the swordsman thought, grin wide. He had them right where he wanted them. Little did he know that he'd forgotten something, or rather someone, important. Naruto, who couldn't be sensed. While the water propelled by the explosion obscured his vision, Naruto dived underwater and began to swim toward the missing nin, Zabuza none the wiser. Until he felt himself get dragged below the surface. Zabuza yelled as he felt water fill his lungs. The man held on desperately to the water prison, but Naruto's superior strength forced him to relinquish it lest he drown. The missing nin used his newly freed arm to flow through hand seals, replacing himself with a rock ashore. Kid's fast, but I'm a decent ways away from the shore. By the time he catches up, his team'll be dead. The missing nin turned toward where he knew Sakura was and slammed his palms on the ground. Water style. 5 feeding sharks jutsu. From the river he was just in, 5 massive sharks emerged and rushed toward the pinket. The girl in question leaped from her tree, a metal object in her hand. Zabuza's eyes widened. In her hand was the inverted spear of heaven. The pin cat cut through every one of the sharks, and before the black-haired man could react, Kakashi slammed a fist into the man's jaw, sending him flying back. You endangered the lives of my genin and managed to imprison me with a cheap trick. All that ends now. The Jonin lifted his headband to reveal a fully matured Sharingan, an audible gasp ringing out from Sasuke. Kakashi of the Sharingan finally decided to give it your all. Zabuza rose to his feet, staring down the Jonin. Sakura, pass Naruto his sword. The pin cat complied and tossed her best friend his sword. The blonde looked at his sensei and immediately understood his role in the upcoming exchange. Resorting to cheap tricks. Kakashi finished the man's sentence, eye narrowed at the swordsman. The black-haired man crouched slightly and before he could slam his palms on the ground. Kakashi beat him to it. Water style. 5 feeding sharks jutsu. They both called Kakashi a little earlier. Before the two jutsu could clash, Naruto launched himself directly in the middle with blinding speed and cut down Zabuza's jutsu, avoiding his sensei's in the nick of time. All 5 sharks slammed into the missing nin, causing him to cough up a significant amount of blood. How the fuck die? Did you know what jutsu I was using? The black-haired man's eyes widened as he took shaky steps backward. It's like he's reading my mind. Zabuza gasped and began a string of hand signs. Kakashi finished first. Water style. Water dragon bullet jutsu. Kakashi called out seconds before Zabuza did and once again, Naruto was there to cut through the missing nin's jutsu. That cursed eye. Kakashi finished as the water dragon enveloped the swordsman. After the water cleared, Kakashi drew a kunai and poised it to the swordsman's neck. Any final words? See, can you read your mind? Yes, the Jonin reared his blade back, ready to deal the finishing blow. But before he could, someone beat him to it. I must thank you all. Team 7 and their client turned toward the new voice, weapons drawn. Who the hell are you? Sasuke asked, kunai and shuriken drawn. I must apologize. I am a hunter nin from the hidden mist here to kill and retrieve the corpse of S-rank criminal Zabuza Mamachi, for he has valuable secrets about his former village, the hunter explained before retrieving Zabuza's corpse and dashing away. That was very anticlimactic, Narumi said to no one in particular. Indeed it was, Kakashi responded. Before collapsing onto the ground. He's finally awake? Naruto asked the blue-haired woman whom he was helping prepare dinner. Inari-chan said he woke up a few minutes ago. I can finish up here if you'd like to speak to him, the woman offered. Naruto dried his hands with a rag and bowed in appreciation before heading up to the room where his sensei had been asleep for the past few days. Hey, Nato-chan, a voice called from the corner, it seemed as though he'd been the last to arrive. Hey Sakura-chan, he responded before taking his usual spot, head in the girl's lap. Now that the gang's all together I can start. I'm sure you've all noticed our little issue, Kakashi spoke, his genin narrowing their eyes. Yeah. Zabuza is still alive. Narumi almost growled, angry at the fact that the man had slipped away and their client was once again under threat by such a powerful foe. Ding ding ding. Now can anyone tell me how we know he's still alive? Sakura was the first to answer the man's question. The hunter nin who disposed of him, had they truly been a hunter, would have destroyed Zabuza's corpse the moment he was killed. Instead, they dragged the body off to who knows where to allow the man to recuperate. Sakura explained as her hands ran through her best friend's blonde locks. Yup. But there's another reason you're overlooking, think weapon choice. This time, Narumi was the one to answer Kakashi's open question. Senbon are rarely lethal, not to mention a skilled Senbon user could easily induce a death-like state. Correctamundo. We have only a small window of time to prepare ourselves, not just for Zabuza's return, but for a new enemy as well. The hunter nin. Kakashi's voice dropped toward the end of his sentence as he pondered on the ability of the hunter nin. So how exactly are we going to prepare? Sasuke asked his sensei, eager to start training and get stronger. When those two return, I'll be the one to crush them. Simple, tree and water walking followed by specialized individual training. The Jonin cast a glance at Naruto who nodded in understanding. He'd be mostly training himself. We already have pretty decent chakra control, sensei, the pincat spoke, two of her teammates nodding in agreement. You do, Sakura, but our second favorite blonde and our angsty Uchiha tend to waste a sizable chunk of chakra when performing their jutsu. This not only is a waste of precious energy, but also detracts from the overall strength of the jutsu being used, Kakashi explained, and the three genin gained looks of understanding. I see, so when do we start? Narumi asked, ignoring the remark about being their second favorite blonde. Right now. I'll meet the three of you outside. I need to have a little powwow with Konoha's #1 unpredictable ninja. The three genin nodded as they exited the room and closed the door, leaving Kakashi and Naruto alone. Gonna give me a way to regain my chakra? The blonde joked and Kakashi shook his head. Not quite. Have you ever heard of Playful Cloud? Kakashi asked and the blonde nodded. Me and Tenten were just talking about it, whoever finds it first gets to keep it. Naruto slightly blushed at the memory of him and the brunette in the library. Good. There are a myriad of weapons scattered throughout the elemental nations. In the land of fire are, not just Playful Cloud, but also Dragon Bone and Slaughter Demon. The latter of which being a blade sacred to Konoha itself in the possession of the Hokage. Kakashi explained, and a curious expression washed over his face. I've heard of the other two, but not the Dragon Bone. What's that? He was eager to learn all about an all-new legendary weapon. I'm not surprised you haven't heard of it as it isn't in most books. The Dragon Bone is a special single-edged blade that, much like your inverted Spear of Heaven, can nullify chakra by collecting it. Unlike your inverted Spear of Heaven, however, it uses only a small percentage of that chakra to power its seal, with the rest being ejected outside of the blade to either speed up the blade by propelling it via chakra or coating the blade with said chakra to sharpen it dramatically. The blonde soaked up every ounce of the information before asking a crucial question. How do you know it's real? Because that blade, Kakashi paused, raising his headband to reveal his Sharingan. Took my eye. It's not a good idea to sleep here. It's dangerous out here and you could catch a cold. A soft voice came from Naruto's left, the blonde turning to meet it. I wasn't asleep beside, you shouldn't be out here unguarded either. The blonde had been practicing using his inverted Spear of Heaven alongside his chain of 1,000 miles and had eventually worn himself out. I guess neither of us is very bright. I'm Haku. You are? The newly named Haku stuck out a hand that Naruto shook while answering. Naruto. Well Naruto, would you mind helping me pick out some herbs and flowers? I don't see why not, and so the blonde helped the Ravenet gather various herbs and flowers into a basket until it was finally full. Thank you Naruto-kun, Haku said with a bow, a light dusting of pink on their face. No problem. Tell Zabuza I said to hurry and recuperate, there aren't any churros in wave. The blonde was immediately forced to dodge a handful of senbon aimed at his throat. How? Haku's voice was cold yet nervous at the same time, clearly anxious at their cover being blown. When you came by to kill Zabuza I smelt a variety of herbs and flowers on you. I asked our team medic about common medicinal herbs used to bring people back from death like trances, and wad you know they're the exact same herbs we're looking for now, and they're the exact same herbs I smelt on that hunter nin. Naruto ran through the process he used to deduce their identity, and Haku couldn't help but smile. You're exceptionally talented. I assume you don't plan on engaging me in combat. You assume correctly. Then how about we stay here for a while, as regular civilians. Haku took a seat in the sea of flowers before patting a spot next to them. Naruto, sensing no hostility from Haku, took a seat next to them before taking off his jacket to put under their heads. They both then fell onto their backs, gazing upon the dwindling daylight. You were there the whole time, weren't you? You could have easily killed every single one of us while we were hiding from Zabuza. Why didn't you? The question had been bothering the blonde ever since he figured out her identity. I dislike killing. Despite my occupation, I wish to end as few lives as possible, Haku explained, and Naruto nodded. I don't think I can kill, but I know I'll have to, and that scares me. I want to be a powerful shinobi and protect my village, and to do that I'll have to end countless lives. Does that make us bad shinobi, Haku? I don't think so, we have to kill yes, but only doing so when we have to rather than just doing it puts us a cut above the rest in my opinion, they answered with a giggle. I guess you're right. Tanya Jiji was right, girls really do know everything. Naruto spoke, letting out a small laugh. I'm actually a boy. Nah. Yes My best friend is a girl, I have a twin sister and mom whom I live with. I can tell based on scent alone that you're a girl. Haku giggled before grabbing a flower and deeply inhaling its scent. Girls don't last long where I'm from, hiding my gender gave me a sense of security in a place where there was none, Haku explained. I know I can't convince you to quit what you're doing with Zabuza, but if you make it out alive, promise me you'll help create a world where people don't have to suffer. As you have the blonde turn to meet the black-haired girl's eyes, staring straight into her soul. I promise, Naruto-kun. Shit, I overslept. The blonde-haired boy shot up from his sleeping bag and rushed downstairs. Good morning, Naruto. The rest of Team 7 went to the bridge. They said they wanted you to get your rest and when you woke up you could go join them. Tsunami said as she wiped dirt off of her son's face. Not in front of Naruto. Naruto nodded before walking to the opposite side of the living room to fetch his windbreaker. Knock knock. A voice yelled out before the door to the small house flew in. A trio of grown men walked into the house, all three brandishing swords. How can I help you, gentlemen? Tsunami spoke shakily, positioning herself in front of her son. But that body, I can think of some ways, one of the men spoke, licking his lips. Hold her down, make the kid watch, and once we're done kill them. Both a second man spoke as the two goons moved to follow orders. So am I invisible or something? The three men stopped dead and turned their heads to the boy who had apparently been behind them the entire time. We didn't sense him. That can't be, we're some of the best sensors Gatm has on the peril. One of the thugs thought. The man raised his arm to cut down the blonde, but before his blade could fall. Divergent fist. He was sent straight into a wall. Another one of the men rushed the blonde, slashing diagonally at his midsection. Naruto simply caught the blade with two of his fingers and snapped a large chunk off, throwing the piece at such a speed that the air displacement alone cut into the man's face. Discarding the broken sword, the man reared a fist back and swung a wild right hook that Naruto calmly slapped away before responding with a knee to the man's stomach, sending him to the ground. The blonde turned his attention to the final thug and began to approach him. The man simply turned and ran out the door. Thank you, Naruto. Don't know how I could have lived with myself if anything happened to my son. Tsunami embraced a boy who returned the hug before finally realizing something. He didn't have his jacket. My sword is sealed in that jacket. If I don't have my sword, then I'm susceptible to jutsufic. He turned towards the blue-haired woman, asking her about the whereabouts of his jacket. You didn't come back with it on when you were out that one night. The realization hit him like a ton of bricks. I left it in the forest when I spoke to Haku. The blonde ran off, not in the direction of the forest, but rather, the bridge. I'll just have to manage without. Sakura, you're on protection and playmaking. Narumi, Sasuke, listen to her and do whatever it takes to take down that hunter. The genin nodded at their sensei's instructions before narrowing their eyes at the hunter. Judging from their chakra alone, the blonde girl is a serious threat. I need to isolate them one by one. The pink-haired girl is going to stay near the bridge builder, so I needn't do much for her, which leaves the Chiha. The brown-eyed girl narrowed her eyes behind her mask as she readied her senbon. I'm sorry, but I cannot allow this bridge builder to live. Give up now and I promise you no one else gets hurt. She had hoped it would inspire surrender, but the genin only seemed to grow more upset. By killing this man you are subjecting an entire village to unbearable pain and suffering. You've already gone back on your word. Narumi was angry, scratched that, pissed at the hunter for playing a role in the suffering of innocent people like Tsunami and Inari. Haku only shook her head and threw a handful of senbon at the blonde who narrowly dodged. I'll goad them into thinking I'm trying to focus on the blonde, and once the raven runs in to capitalize I'll trap him in my technique. She readied another handful of senbon and threw them with near-perfect accuracy, cutting Narumi along the face and neck. She's going after Narumi probably in an attempt to take out who she perceives as the biggest threat. I'll have Sasuke launch a fireball at her, then have him swing wide and hit her from the side. Sakura signaled the plan to Sasuke, who nodded and ran through the seals for the Uchiha's iconic jutsu. Higher style. Fireball jutsu. The ball of flames barreled at the hunter, who managed to roll to her right in the nick of time. Unfortunately for her, she rolled right into the raven, who sent a rear leg axe kick to her sprawled body. Got you. The two ravens thought in conjunction. Only one was able to land their move, however. Hidden jutsu. Crystal ice mirrors. Faster than Sasuke could react, a dome of ice mirrors erupted around him, trapping him inside. Shit. Shit. Sakura seethed as the realization hit her like a truck. She poured all of her attention onto Narumi because she perceived her as the strongest. But it was a ploy to draw Sasuke out so she could pick him off from the safety of her jutsu. Sakura knew she couldn't go in there to help, as the moment she vacated her spot near the client he'd be bisected faster than he could blink. Narumi, what are your affinities? Maybe, just maybe. Water and wind. The two that'd help her jutsu. Sakura cursed under her breath. Alright. Send a shadow clone to try and see if we can enter from the outside. If we can, help Sasuke ASAP. Narumi nodded and summoned a shadow clone to send into the dome. It was torn to ribbons the moment it got within 5 feet. She knew we'd try and send someone in, so she's paying careful attention to the outside. On the bright side, it means her attention is divided between picking apart Sasuke and stopping your entry. All Sasuke has to do is wait until Naruto arrives. Then we can use his sword to nullify the technique. Narumi gave a nod, upset that she was unable to do anything to help. Turn that frown upside down, little sister. Speak of the devil. Divergent fist. The technique shattered a hole through one of the mirrors, which allowed Naruto to slip in unimpeded. Haku was focused on the small openings between mirrors, not the mirrors themselves. I didn't need any help, the Uchiha grumbled as he strained his eyes in an attempt to see the needles. If there was ever a time to unlock my Sharingan, it'd be now. The raven narrowed his eyes as he barely dodged another handful of senbon. Your comrade won't help you. Once you're within these mirrors you are in my domain. Give up before you both face death. She gave them another opportunity to leave without consequence. They would not be getting another one. Naruto narrowed his eyes as he witnessed just how different Haku was when she was just a regular civilian versus when she was the hunter nin. I won't be letting anyone die on this bridge, Naruto spoke with conviction as he fell into his fighting stance. Haiku threw a handful of senbon at the blonde, who blocked them all with a kunai, using his free hand to punch through the mirror he assumed her to be heading to. I'll wait it out, bait out an attack, block, and then counter with divergent fist. The blonde planned, eyes carefully tracking the brown-eyed girl. The hunter threw a flurry of senbon at the blonde who, once again, blocked before appearing at a seemingly random mirror and punching the space in front of it. Divergent fist. The blonde called the name of his attack which landed flush against the temple of the hunter, sending her flying back. The blonde made a mad dash at Haku, throwing a rear leg calf kick at the brown-eyed girl's left leg that sent a searing pain up her leg. He then switched stances and used the momentum to bring his rear leg to the sky and send a brutal axe kick into the girl's skull. He doesn't have his jacket on, which means he doesn't have his sword. I don't think he can use jutsu either, which means he's keeping up with her off of pure physical prowess alone. I can't hold back anymore. If I have to kill these two, then so be it. Haku managed to block the lead leg round kick and slip the jab that came from Naruto, which allowed her to gain distance and meld back into her mirrors. I apologize for what is to happen next, although I've given you plenty of opportunities to escape with your lives. She readied 2 handfuls of senbon and launched them. This flurry of senbon being 3x faster than the last. Sasuke, who was already struggling to dodge them to begin with, had needles sticking out of 95% of his body. I can manage at this pace, but any longer and Sasuke's a goner. I have to start playing a more defensive role or he'll die here. The blonde then took a defensive position in front of the Uchiha, ready to block all needles from reaching the Raven. I don't need protection. I can keep up with her just as well as you can. The shorter boy stepped out from behind the blonde and readied his kunai. If that was the case, then you wouldn't look like a pincushion. Just give me some time to break the mirrors, I'll get us out of here. The blonde squeezed his fist and turned towards the hunter. Who does he think he is? I'm an Uchiha and he thinks he can track her better than I can. I'm sick of him. I'm sick of people looking down on me. I'm sick of people only seeing Itachi. I'm sick of being behind everyone. The Raven growled as he awaited the next round of senbon. They came just as fast as the previous round, except for this time Sasuke could see them a little better, he could dodge a little more of them. He could win. Naruto shot the Raven a glance and smiled once he'd seen his eyes. Look who's finally a full-fledged Uchiha. Haku threw another flurry of senbon that Naruto and Sasuke managed to dodge and parry, with the former managing to tag the hunger with a divergent fist before she could re-assimilate with her mirrors. The longer the fight goes on, the better these two are getting at dodging and tagging me. I need the Uchiha put down, now. Haku's next volley at senbon, rather than being shot at the two from a multitude of angles, was shot solely at Sasuke from every mirror possible. The boy dropped to the floor, body limp. Sasuke. The blonde yelled as he pressed his finger to the side of the boy's neck, just like Sakura had taught him, but felt no pulse. I gave you multiple chances to surrender. You refused, so now I must kill the both of you. I'm sorry for this, Naruto-kun. The hunter threw another volley of senbon at Naruto, who made no attempt to dodge. Wave after wave of needles pierced through the blonde skin, but he refused to dodge. Instead, the blue-eyed boy walked up to a random mirror, raised his fist, and struck. Black flash. Arcs of red and black lightning traveled up the boy's arm and into the mirrors, shattering them instantly. Haku, unprepared for the sudden shattering of her mirrors, fell forward, landing in front of the blonde. The taller boy grabbed her by her black hair and raised her to eye level, reared his fist back, and snapped it forward. Black flash. The pain was unbearable as arcs of lightning seared her skin in tandem with the blunt force of the punch. I don't sense an ounce of chakra coming from him. Is this pure martial arts? The hunter rolled back, but before she could make any significant distance, Naruto was instantly behind her. The girl clambered to her feet and threw a rear leg hook kick that snapped the blonde's head to the right. She tried to follow it up with an elbow that the blonde just caught and threw to the side. Black flash. The hunter had to hold back a violent scream as she felt the black spark sear her skin. By now Kakashi, Zabuza, and the rest of Team 7 save for a deceased Sasuke stopped to watch Naruto pummel the girl he held responsible for Sasuke's death. The Naichin doesn't have chakra. Whatever black flash is has to be pure physical prowess. Naruto grabbed the girl by her hair once more and raised a fist. This time, however, he guided her face into his knuckles as he called out the name of his attack once again. Black flash. Haku crumpled to the ground, sobbing as the pain from the lightning arcs racked her body. Zabuza immediately rushed to the girl's side, scooping her off the ground. Alright. You win. We'll leave the bridge builder alone, just please don't hurt her, she's all I have. Naruto could see the pain on his face, and for a moment he almost felt bad. Until he caught a view of Sasuke's corpse. Black, Florida. My papa was right, if you want something done you do it yourself. A voice cut off the blonde before he could strike the missing nin down. Atom. Zabuza growled as he held the sobbing hunter closer. Here I was thinking that you ninja would go and kill each other, only to come find out that you got beat by a squad of genin and turn all mushy. Luckily for me, I managed to hire some real men to do the job. Get 'em, boys. Zabuza then noticed the mob of wandering swordsmen, common thugs, and bandits standing behind Gatm, who started to stalk towards them. "Once we're done with you and those other shinobi, we'll take a crack at the fresh meat, starting with that girl you're carrying," one of them from the crowd said, hunger ever present in his voice. "Kakashi. What? Can you watch her for me? I need to take care of something." Without waiting for an answer, Zabuza handed the now whimpering 15 to Kakashi, who set her down gingerly on his flak jacket before picking up his massive cleaver. "You can't survive every single one of my men, Zabuza. Demon of the Mr. Knot." Zabuza didn't respond, instead opting to bisect the first man who approached him. 3 more men took shaky steps toward the man before raising their weapons. The first man brought down his club towards Zabuza's head, the missing nin responding by grabbing the arm and cutting it clean off with his sword. The second man slashed a knife towards his midsection, just for Zabuza to catch it dead and bend the man's arm backward, snapping it. The third man slashed diagonally at Zabuza's chest, who allowed the man to hit him, only for the cut to be shallow. Without so much as even a breath, the missing nin rammed his blade through the skull of the man, killing him. The slaughter continued for what seemed like hours, groups of men charging at the former Anbu, just to be gruesomely killed in front of their comrades, until finally there was but one man left. The missing nin growled as he stalked toward the CEO of the massive shipping tycoon. Haha, it was just a joke. I don't even like those guys." The missing nin was having none of it as he raised his sword and slammed it beside Gatm. "I'm not gonna kill you," the short fat man breathed a sigh of relief. "Thank why?" Zabuza cut him off. They were a massive ragtag army formed by the citizens of Wave via Nari. "Kill the fat one." The child yelled as the group of men and women angrily charged at their oppressor, carrying him off to be crucified. "Ugh, my head," a voice groaned from behind them. Team 7's eyes widened as they turned to confirm what they dearly hoped was true. "Sasuke. You're alive," Naruto exclaimed as he helped the boy up to his feet. "I guess the hunter put me in the same death-like trance she did." Zabuza immediately, Naruto's face fell as he recalled what the girl had said to him in the forest. "I should have known. She told me she'd avoid killing whenever possible. But I got so mad that I almost ended up killing her." Bile started to creep its way up the blonde's throat, but he forced it down alongside the thought of what would happen should he have ended up killing the girl writhing in pain in front of him. The blonde knelt down and placed a crumpled flower he had kept in his pocket since they had picked them beside the girl. "I'm sorry, Hakuchani should have known that you didn't intend to kill any of us. If you'd let me, I'd like to make it up to you sometime." The brown-eyed girl opened an eye to look at the blonde before offering a weak smile. "Why, you're gonna be picking flowers for days." Her voice was weak and her laugh even weaker, but Naruto couldn't help but smile. "It'd be my pleasure." "So what are you going to name the bridge?" Tsunami asked her father as he marveled at the piece of architecture. "What else?" The man paused as he took in the fact that his people were finally free. "What else but the Great Naruto Bridge? What if Naruto has dense chakra in Konoha?" And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part. Comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.